everybody. Welcome to this Comic-Con celebration review and breakdown and wrap up here from the
Geek
Buddies.
Hey!
Well, we're all back in our respective houses after having spent 4 days in the same hotel room, 4 or 5 days, I think, in the same hotel room and in the same car for at least a little bit and hung out. So now we're back to talk about everything that went on during those 4 days from Wednesday through Sunday of Comic-Con. Certainly a lot of adventures were gone, a lot of parties were attended, but panels were also seen, trailers were also reacted to, conversations were had amongst us for hours on end about everything that we got to see. And we're going to talk about it all here on this special episode of the Geek Buddies. We appreciate you all joining us. The chat is there's already 115 people in here, and already the chat is lively as hell. And just a quick reminder, Streamlabs and SuperChats are open, so start sending them in now, because you know how it gets when we start rolling. We're going to get to them as soon as we get to them, but start sending them now so you get them in early. We can address them as quickly as possible for you all. But let's introduce ourselves first. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, writer, producer, and host here on the Geek Buddies in the Outlaw Nation. Mike?
I am Michael Vogel, a writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies.
Shannon?
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor where you may have seen me on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Silicon Valley, and The Goldbergs.
And of course, like every Geek Buddies episode that has gone on for the last few months, we are powered and sponsored by the great folks over at carbonhealth.com. You got questions, healthcare concerns, or needs, go to carbonhealth.com, get them addressed, get them seen, set up an appointment if you can physically at one of their centers. They got over 125 locations nationwide, 80 plus locations in California alone, or they offer virtual care as well for you to go and get checked out. You can also download their app and have a dock in your pocket. Go there and download that either at the Apple Store or there at carbonhealth.com. All right, give them some love and tell them the Geek Buddies sent you. And certainly, some people certainly could have used carbonhealth.com from what I smelled on that floor, but we'll get to that later. Let's move on to overall thoughts here. Mike, we'll start with you as we like to do. Overall thoughts on this Comic-Con, the first one in 3 years here after all COVID and everything as well. It's not over, but after COVID shutdowns for those 3 years, now it was back this year. How did you feel about this Comic-Con overall?
I felt really great. Before I get into that, I want everyone in the chat to know that the lay of the hotel room was... It is Shannon who spoons with Rocha.
Hello.
I snuggle up with nerd pal Mike Kalinowski. Yes. That's the way we've done it for years, and that's the way we continue to do it. There were earplugs all around for everybody, because more than one Geek Buddy can really saw some logs at night. And what else to tell about the hotel room? Shannon and Kalinowski brought a bunch of donuts, an entire care package of food. Mike Kalinowski brought enough Diet Cokes to feed a small army and drank half of it himself.
He ran out.
He ran out 24 cans of Diet Coke consumed in 4 days. So much so he had to buy 2 bottles of Diet Coke to help him out through Sunday. I can't. How is that man not have just, Coke blood now at this point? It's insane.
But it was great. We stayed at the Hilton Bayfront, which is where we always love to stay when we are able to, and managed to stay there for our big Comic-Con return. And honestly, it couldn't have been better. We had an absolute blast. I think throughout the week, as with any trip, you have your ups, you have your downs, but more ups than downs. Had a great time. Definitely saw some of you guys, heard more than one, hey, Geek Buddies, as we were drinking and wandering the Gaslamp District, which was really nice. And, all in all, even though there might not have been as much new news, even though it didn't feel quite as packed and insane as past Comic-Cons, given where we're at with COVID, that was kind of an okay thing. And I will say that, maybe about mid-afternoon Saturday, I was feeling like, all right, there were some nice trailers, there was some nice news, it was a nice little Comic-Con, fun little tidbits for some things coming up, nothing major, nothing that broke the world. But then we went to the Marvel panel and all of that changed. So we will definitely be talking a lot more about that. But all in all, I think we all agreed coming back that this was pretty much, for us at least, the most perfect way to return to San Diego.
Absolutely. It's like putting your toe in the water, just like, That's what it felt like getting it. And then, of course, as you said, Michael, that Marvel panel hit and absolutely exploded. They tell you it's the way the film ends that sticks with you, not what happens in the middle or in the beginning. But if it ends well, it absolutely sticks with you. And absolutely, Comic-Con ended so well with that Marvel panel on Saturday night. We're going to talk about that, as Michael said, also the DC panel. We're talking trailers, all these things that happened there during the last 4 days. Shannon McClung, your thoughts overall on this Comic-Con and your feelings coming out of it?
It was great, and I know some people are asking, "Where's Kalinowski?" So Kalinowski is at work right now.
Yeah, he's at work.
We had a very small window in which we could do this review when it would still be relevant, so we wanted to go ahead and do it. But I mean, he's
over at Carbon Health trying to deal with his caffeine overdose, is where he really is.
It was a blast. This is our annual sort of guycation that we get to take, and not getting to take it for the last 2 years, it has really sucked. So just the idea that the four of us were going to get to go back down to San Diego and really just hang out with each other for a few days, like that's already what I was looking forward to. And the traffic was not bad either way, which was a shock. Like the traffic gods were really in our corner. And by hook or by crook, all four of us got into that Marvel panel. And it was awesome. We got to hit some very, very cool parties. We got to chat with some very cool people. I want to say it was Thursday night that we started to hear the A's as we were walking to dinner. I went outside. We were at a bar later at night. I went outside to call my wife to say goodnight. And as we're chatting, I see a guy walk by. I go, "Hey, Geek Buddies!" And we chatted for a few moments. I mean, it was just lovely. And just getting to hang out with folks, getting to see folks that we haven't seen in like 2 years, because some people we only see at Comic-Con. Right. So it was awesome. I mean, I really couldn't have asked for a better con.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see this on my phone. This is the back of my car.
Yeah.
Me and Kalinowski and Shannon's bags are underneath that massive blue monstrosity that was John Rocha overpacking for Comic-Con, but you can also see all of the Diet Cokes that Kalinowski drank almost by himself. So that's a little sneak peek of our arrival.
Yeah, it's true. Listen, I got extra large clothes. They take up a big suitcase. That's my defense, and I'm sticking with it, for God's sakes. I had a great time at the con overall. A lot of fun to see some people, see some industry people, run into some people I hadn't talked to in a very long time. To see them in person was really great at the multiple functions, parties, panels, and what have you. And I got to host one of the panels, which was a career highlight for me for sure, and got me motivated to hopefully at some point host in Hall H someday. So now I've got a new goal to set forward in my life here, because I really enjoyed seeing a lot of the panels in Hall H and also feeling like I can hang with any of these hosts that are in there. So that was a nice little piece of surprise for me. But also I discovered but walking the floor was great. That's what I love to do more than anything else, is to walk the floor. The panels are great. Hall H panels are certainly highlights, but walking the floor is really nice. And I got a chance to go and do that on Thursday. It wasn't as full as it has been in the past, which was great. There were 130,000 people at this Comic-Con for sure, but it didn't feel as full as it has in the past. So I was able to walk comfortably through Artist Alley, see the installations, check out the stuff. I bought a shirt, these things that I was able to do. I like to do when I go to Comic-Con. I didn't get any graphic novels because graphic novels or comics are kind of bouncing back. So the prices are going back up. So where I thought I used to get those 50% off, they weren't as 50% off as they have been in the past. So I didn't buy anything this time around in terms of graphic novels, which actually made me happy, because it means that comic books and these comic book retailers are doing well. And that's a good thing for comic books overall. I became obsessed with The Last Ronin. I now have to read this thing. I had no idea this existed. Michelangelo, the last of the Mutant Ninja Turtles that's still alive, going for vengeance as a samurai Ronin. Sweet Mary Mother of God. I just ordered the entire volume today, so I'm going to have it by Wednesday. I'm going to read that thing at 225 pages. I can't wait to dive into that. But more than anything else, it was reconnecting with the geekdom, reconnecting with the fandom, reconnecting with all of that, and seeing so much incredible cosplay. All of it was so much fun for sure. And we got to hang out at the hotel. We got to go to parties and hang out with each other for the first time in a long time, extended amount of time for the first time in a very long time. So it was nice to have that as well. So, all right, well, let's move on to other things to let you know. The Streamlabs Super Chats are open. I'm going to pin the address in the chat. We do have some of your Super Chats and Streamlabs already, but let's move on to talking about the things that we got to see. We're going to get ourselves to the Marvel panel, not just yet, but we're going to talk about some other stuff before we get to the Marvel panel. Let's start out with Dungeons and Dragons. That was the first thing we did on Wednesday night. We got invited to the installation as it was opening on Wednesday night. We showed up, put our stuff down, went right to that installation, got some dragons Dragon's Brew, saw some incredible visual images. We got to see Emma Fyffe. We got to see Brandon Davis. We got to see a bunch of people there from our sphere. We got to meet some friends there. We got to meet certain people from a certain publication. I'm not sure if I'll let say the name. We got to meet them all, hang out with them, and do whatever. So it was a blast to be there. Shannon, you and I kind of held the wall for a while till we eventually migrated around. What did you think about the overall presentation of this? And there was also a trailer that dropped for Dungeons and Dragons from the directors of Game Time. What was your Game Night? What is your overall opinion on what we got to see there at Dungeons and Dragons installation and the Dungeons and Dragons trailer?
So in terms of the experience, like, this is the type of thing that I absolutely adore at Comic-Con, is when you have a film, you have a genre film that could very easily get lost in the shuffle of all of the huge movies that come out.
Yeah.
And it's sort of an announcement. I mean, I had heard that Chris Pine was going to be in a Dungeons and Dragons movie, and that Michelle Rodriguez was going to be in it, and Roger Jean Page was going to be in it. So getting to walk in, and we're getting looks at the characters as well. They had monitors on the sides where they had sort of like little introductions to some of the characters, and inside it's like an old medieval tavern. I mean, the experience itself was just a blast. I mean, a great way to start off Comic-Con is like you get to go in, have our green Dragon's Brew, which I'm pretty sure was a Moscow Mule. But still a blast getting to see. I've never seen Emma Fyffe in person. That was the first time I've ever seen her in person. So getting to chat with her for a little bit. In terms of the trailer, like, the guys that did Game Night, like John Francis Daly, and the other name is escaping me. I think those guys are really funny writers. And
Jonathan Goldstein.
Yeah. Jonathan Goldstein, excuse me. So I think what they're going for, like, if anyone is watching Vox Machina on Amazon Prime, like, that seems to be the vibe that they're going for. Sort of slightly irreverence, a very sort of colloquial take on a genre, medieval setting.
Yeah.
I have high hope for it. I mean, I think Chris Pine is he's just a charming leading man. And even though I don't know if all the comedy landed in the trailer, I mean, the fact that it's going to come out in March, and it's this is the type of movie that if I were a kid in the 80s, like, this is the type of thing you dream of seeing. Just dragons and magic, and we'll see. The experience itself was a great introduction to what the movie is going to be. So we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed. I mean, the party was a blast. So
yeah. Absolutely. All right, Mike, thoughts on this one? I mean, as you said, Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Roger Jean Page, I think the actor's name is. I don't see Bridgerton, so I think that's his name. Justice Smith, Hugh Grant as a villain here, chewing up the scenery, and Sophia Lillis, who we all enjoyed in It. So thoughts on this as you watch this trailer, and on your experience going to that installation, which was open all 4 days there at Comic-Con for Dungeons & Dragons.
Well, I just want to make it clear that, as John said, he and Shannon held up the wall at the party. I don't hold up the wall at taverns.
That's what I said. Yeah.
It's a recurring theme at Comic-Con. But yeah, no, it was great. Going in there, kind of kicking things off. Like Shannon said, like, walking in this little hallway into the tavern and seeing all the character posters was the first time that I really saw who all was in the movie and kind of who they were going to be. So I think as far as setting up an installation at Comic-Con, the D&D team did a really, really nice job. Like, I thought it was a really smart thing to do. The tavern was super cool. Like they said, you go in, it's a whole medieval tavern, filled with people, and one entire video screen on the wall was like outside the tavern, and like every 20 minutes this giant dragon came in, blew some fire, blew some smoke, everything shook. Like, it was pretty cool. So it was a really, really nice time. The scariest thing in the tavern was watching Shannon and John experience green Jello shots for the first time, and not quite knowing what to do with the Jello shot. So that was interesting. As far as the trailer goes, I kind of agree with them. I think when we all were like talking about the trailer, the response was, will this work? I don't know. Is this the smarter way to handle a D&D movie? I do think so. I think with all of the Lord of the Rings and all of the epic fantasy, even like what Arcane is doing, there's so much epic, heavy fantasy out there right now. And I think D&D kind of going in the other direction and doing something that's a little bit more tongue-in-cheek and putting Chris Pine, who is very, very charming in the lead role, could be great. This is one of those trailers you're like, I thought this trailer was super fun. This movie is either going to be really, really funny or I'm really not going to like it, but I'm definitely open. And after spending some time in a tavern and getting my signature D&D mug to come home with, I'm rooting for him. I'm on team D&D.
Yeah, I mean, I had a good time. It was a great way to kind of get back into the spirit of Comic-Con, going to an installation of that, like that, seeing all the people there that we saw and getting to enjoy some of the liquor. And yes, struggle through Jello shots. I was looking for a little spoon to help me out in that situation, but apparently you're supposed to shove it, squeeze it all down into your mouth. I haven't done that in a very long time.
Well, because it was brought in a sealed plastic cup, and
like COVID.
Yeah, totally understand why they did it.
Yeah.
It just made the ingesting a little more complicated.
I agree, a little more awkward than it needed to be, for sure. I agree. For those of us who are not as seasoned in doing so, it was a little awkward, but it was still fun. Tasted well. Great to see everybody. We hung out there for a little bit as well, which was cool. But yeah, like they said, the presentation was great. Really enjoyed the vibe. Love the feel of it all. It was a great way to kind of get back into the spirit of what we were going to be getting at Comic-Con. And then the trailer. Yeah, I got to say, I don't hate the trailer. I thought I was going to be feeling that way about the trailer like I did when the one from the 2000s, early 2000s came out with Marlon Wayans. I was like, oh, man, this is horrific. Watching it here, and even though, look, I know people might get upset, even though it's got Michelle Rodriguez in it, who I don't think is the strongest actress, I think overall I did enjoy it. I do got to speak to Chris Pine's agent, though, and try to figure out what he's doing with his career, because I'm very confused about the things that he's doing here. But him leading the way is a way to give this thing a little more credibility, because people like Chris Pine. As you said, Mike, he's very charming, so he kind of grounds the film with that. Then you have Sophia Lillis being this kind of animal changing thing, or whatever it's called. I'm not as seasoned in Dungeons and Dragons as other people are, but I enjoyed seeing that, and the anachronistic usage of the song, thanks to A Knight's Tale, which is really the big one that started that whole craze. It worked. Having some Led Zeppelin roll through the trailer kind of gets you in a good mood, so it was really smart. But the dragon effects don't look terrible. Reminded me a lot of Game of Thrones, so I got to give them a shout out that they're spending some money to try to make this look good. Will the story be good? That's really what's going to sell this thing. We shall see. But overall, I came out of that thing feeling like, okay, I'll give this a shot. Might enjoy this time instead of feeling like I'm going to be trying to hit myself in the head with a hammer watching this thing. I thought it looked all right, for sure.
Well, and speaking of Game of Thrones,
we
got some Game of Thrones stuff going. We had a Game of Thrones trailer come out.
Yeah.
We didn't get to see any of the Game of Thrones panel and stuff or anything, but we saw the same trailer that got dropped that everybody else did. The other thing that's fun about Comic-Con is for the panels that you don't get into, you go back to the hotel room and you find John taking a nap and Shannon doing some writing and Kalinowski drinking a Diet Coke, and then you're like, oh, what just happened? And you kind of open up the computer and you watch the trailer. So we all did watch the House of Dragons trailer together. And I think like maybe some varied reactions. I'm trying to remember. I was personally encouraged. I think it kind of felt like more of the same as far as Game of Thrones went, but after my feelings about the latter half of season 7 and most of season 8, if a Game of Thrones series comes out and makes me feel like the first part of watching Game of Thrones, I am more than okay with that. But gentlemen, what were your thoughts on House of Dragons?
I loved it.
Go first.
Yeah, I loved it. The House of Dragon trailer. Season 8 left such a terrible taste in my mouth, and those of you can go see my reaction to the finale. I'm sure it's still up on the Collider YouTube channel. It was a very strong, angry reaction to that finale. I did not like what they did. So the fact that I came out of this,
you held on to hope longer than most, if I remember that.
Yeah, I really did. Yes, I did. You're right. You're right. I just wanted her to lay waste to everything and her come out on top and start a whole new civilization. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. This trailer, though, and I've liked everything that's come out, kind of promoting that. When I've seen people being cautiously optimistic or trepidatious, I've been one of these people who's been like, this looks good. This looks like they understand that they fucked up in season 8. They're coming in with a different mentality to kind of recapture the joy, kind of the Force Awakens, recapturing the joy of the original trilogy Star Wars. This is recapturing the joy of the early seasons of Game of Thrones, and I liked it. And I liked that the Iron Throne is an issue. I like that we've got here once again. We've got the Targaryens. We've got ourselves the Starks. We've got ourselves the Lannisters. All of that's going to be working through, and we've got some really good actors in this as well that I thoroughly enjoyed. So some of the beats do feel familiar. I'm not going to deny that, but I like that the one thing that does feel familiar is this feels like some of the best of Game of Thrones, the vibe of some of the best of Game of Thrones, and that makes me excited and happy to see for sure. And in the end, we'll see if it hits the mark. But right now, I'm excited. Shannon, what did you think?
You know, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I think the cast. I agree. The cast looks fantastic. I think there's some great moments in the trailers, especially with Patty Considine and Matt Smith. I think everybody looks great. I just think it feels very kind of also ran right now.
Yeah.
And like one thing, and this is a dumb critique, but looking at the setting for House of the Dragon and then looking at the setting for Game of Thrones, I'm like, I don't know how many hundreds of years have passed, but there was zero technological advancement in Westeros. Like, it is the exact same.
It's supposed to be 200 years. 200
How
years.
far back do you, what do you want to have, like a stick castle in King's Landing? What were you hoping for? That they had like a platform?
It is exactly the same. And I admit that's a dumb critique. I mean, I could watch the show and be like, oh, this is fantastic. And I very well might. I mean, just right now, I think the last season of Game of Thrones is sticking with me. So I am absolutely going to watch the show, though. I mean, again, there is nothing wrong with it. Everything looks good. It looks remarkably similar to a thing that disappointed me last time I watched.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. We'll see. We'll see. That's certainly coming very, very soon. So I'm looking forward to it as well. Now, what about the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power? There's also a trailer. There was a panel for that as well. EW did a nice setup for that as well. Shannon, what did you think about the Rings of Power trailer? What did you think about what you saw from there and what you heard about the approach that they're taking? Remember, this is $640-something million that they're spending on this show. Did it come through in the trailer, most recent trailer? Did it come through in some of the conversations that you heard, some of the quotes that you heard coming out of that panel?
I mean, from my point of view, 100%. Like, it is very clear that there is a lot of money that's going to be on the screen. And I feel like this is the one series of the other series that we saw trailers for. This is the one series that does legitimately look like it could be a movie.
Yeah.
One series to rule them all, you might say.
There it is.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of the story, like, I love the visual connections to the films, even though I guess, you know, like the design of the Balrog is very similar.
Yes.
You know, some of the cities look very similar. I think it looks great. Just I'm not sure emotionally where it is right now. I mean, I know like young Galadriel is our lead. Yeah. I'm curious about it. There's nothing in the trailer that I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to watch this. It's one of those shows that I'm like, yes, it's Lord of the Rings. I'm 100% going to watch it. It's just not revving my motor right now. But that's no ding on the quality of what was shown. That's just a personal thing that it's like, yeah, this one is not getting me that excited. That doesn't mean I think it's bad though.
Okay. Mike, thoughts?
Yeah, I think that, you know, like, I don't disagree with Shannon that House of Dragons looks like most seasons of Game of Thrones. I think that's not a bug. That's a feature for me. Like, I'm on board with that. But what I do like about the Rings of Power series is it feels like the movies, but it also feels like there's more to it than that. It feels different as well. Like, there's enough similarity in the design of the cities, of some of the creatures. Like, it feels like this fits in with what I know of the Peter Jackson films, but there's also a different vibe to it. There's also some creatures I haven't seen before, places I haven't seen before. So it feels like I'm getting something that's a new chapter as well. So I'm very, very keen on it. I'm really, really excited about it. Lord of the Rings is one of the things that, as we're going to get into Marvel and DC and Sandman and a little bit with some other stuff, there are things that I'm very, very passionate about and have tons of opinions on. Lord of the Rings is always something that I'm very a fan of, but I don't feel as strongly as others. So this is something that if they sort of tweak some of what we know of what J.R.R. Tolkien had written, if it kind of goes off in its own direction, if it kind of adds some new elements to it, it's probably not going to bother me as much as it bothers other people. So I think I'm kind of like a wide open slate. I'm probably the perfect audience for this because I'm the right balance of invested in the Peter Jackson movies, but not completely 1,000% invested in the Tolkien universe. So kind of they could hit my sweet spot with this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to say, I've really enjoyed what we've been getting from it. They've only been teasing us with a little bit of the world. They even had a trailer come out days before this one came out which was really surprising to kind of give you a bigger idea of what the world looks like. And then this last trailer gave you an idea of the story. We got to see Sauron in this trailer. We got to see more of the characters that are going to be involved. I mean, the shot of Galadriel putting that helmet on top of that stack of helmets, I haven't seen an image like that since 300. So it was great to see something like that there in this. And the idea, the symbolism of the idea of thinking you've handled some evil, now you can sit back and relax and that evil won't come back. That evil always wants to come back. It applies nowadays to our world. No matter what side of the political fence you are on, you kind of feel that way. So I like that it's got some real world connections as you're watching this as well. And also seeing this idea that, you know, this universe has gotten a little too lackadaisical about what's going on. So she's got to rally the troops. You know, Galadriel at times was a bit of a observer from the sidelines or a bit of a person who went to for advice. But she wasn't as central to the story with the Lord of the Rings movies necessarily as the Hobbits or as Viggo Mortensen was. But here she is very much the central character here, driving the force to defend Middle Earth and get everybody back on board to fight off this evil. And of course, they do lose because Sauron does get the ring. So it's going to be a tragic story. So that gets me even more excited. And the fact that it's so diverse with the casting. I don't give a shit if Tolkien wrote it or didn't write it. If you grab the spirit correctly, if you honor the mood of what Tolkien was writing and what he was going for, then God love you, get it right. And the diversity doesn't bother me at all. And nothing makes me cheer for something more than people crowing about the fact that it's too diverse. Now I'm 100% on board with this and want to see more of it as it goes along for sure. So I liked what we got. I like where we're going. I like the story. And I like Morven Clark as Galadriel. She looks really good with that energy of hers as an actress. So now I'm waiting with bated breath because, again, this one is right around the corner as well. Gentlemen, we got a hell of a fall coming. There's a lot of stuff coming down the pipe.
We're going to be big. Geek Buddies going to be busy.
Gonna be real busy.
Somebody get Carbon Health on speed file on that dock on my POC. Speed file, speed dial. That didn't even work. It didn't come out right.
Oh boy, that would have been an editor's dream because that was a solid joke. That's too bad.
Damn it.
All right, let's go. Let's hit some of these Streamlabs and Super Chats. Ron Bond says, hi, guys. I'll be working, but wanted to thank you in advance. Can't wait to hear your impressions. Trailers. Certainly, there were a lot of them. Let's see. We got another one here from Jay Master says, Kevin Feige confirmed at Comic-Con Blade begins filming in October and Fantastic Four begins filming next year. Will we get a director and cast announced for Fantastic Four at D23? Let's put a pin on that one. We'll address it when we get to Marvel for sure. I'm sure we've got our thoughts on when we might be getting that. And they did announce that would be a Phase 6 movie? Is that correct?
That's the opening of Phase 6.
Phase 6. So we got a little ways till that one. Simon Section says, greetings, my Greek buddy brothers. I think he meant Geek Buddy brothers. Mr. Outlaw, since you've already seen the Wakanda Forever trailer back at Comic-Con, did the look on your thumbnail reaction reflect how you felt on your first viewing? If nope, that's okay. I will be viewing it soon. No, it was more of the overwhelming. I'm just overwhelmed by the awesomeness of what I was watching. I had 75 different emotions happening to me through that entire trailer for sure. And we're going to talk about that as we go along, Mike.
Yeah, because I was going to say, we'll get to it when we talk to the Marvel panel, but there's the awesomeness that is the trailer, and then there is the awesomeness of everything that happened in Hall H during the panel leading up to that trailer, and we are absolutely going to give the play-by-play on that.
Yeah, for sure. Stay tuned for that for sure as we go along. This is from J&B. Given Michael's response, I have to assume that Shannon was the little spoon. That said, of all the trailers for upcoming movies and series, what are each of you looking forward to the most? Thanks, guys.
Oh, boy, that's...
Let's think about it. Let's keep talking, and we'll swing back to it, James.
Oh, sure. I thought you guys were thinking about which one of you was the little spoon, and that's what you were struggling with.
No. I mean, that's just genetics. I mean, I know.
JB also said Rocha would have joined Saruman just for a chance to off some hobbits. I'm surprised he hasn't done something to Shannon yet. Oh, Jesus. JB, you go too far sometimes, son. You ain't one of our friends to go too far, so pull it back a little bit. Pull it back. Don't take personal shots like that. And he says, love you, Shannon. You don't get to cover shit up by saying love you, Shannon. That's not how it works. Monkey brains.
All right. It was a pretty good shot.
This Philip Bryan says, was out on a gravel ride but got a flat that is beyond repair. Oh, so now I'm walking home carrying my bike and listening to you, gents. Good show. # Oxford comma. I don't know what that means.
Oxford, yeah. they talk. Was it in West Wing that they talk about it, or is that Kelsey Grammer's show, Boss? They talk about it.
Oh,
I think it's Boss. They talk about it.
The Oxford comma. All right,
the Oxford comma.
Well, Philip, I hope you're walking home safe. I know you were out in London there, so I hope you're walking home safe, brother. Take the mean streets of London. We've got some Streamlabs that come through. Travis Earl said audience satisfaction is trending down for Marvel, with Phase 4 having Marvel's biggest box office drops and lowest cinema scores. If this trend continues, can Marvel maintain enough audience interest to make Secret Wars an Endgame level hit? Gentlemen?
Yeah, I mean, like, we can dive into it more in the Marvel panel, but I think that what they did very specifically and very on purpose was, I think they're aware of the fact that kind of audience satisfaction has gone down, particularly with the last two movies. Definitely, both Multiverse of Madness and Thor: Love and Thunder have their huge fans, have their It Was Fine fans, and have their I Am Not Satisfied fans. And probably more of a mix than is typically the case with Marvel movies. And I think, whether it be Black Widow or Eternals, that's definitely a trend in Marvel, and similarly on Disney Plus with the Marvel TV shows. So I think being aware of that, even though they're saving some of their bigger announcements for D23, they came hard at Hall H. And the stuff that they showed was enough, not just the stuff that you guys have seen, but some of the other stuff that they showed inside the hall, really got excitement back right up to fever pitch. So I think, a lot of times these panels, it's for the fans. They do all this stuff for the fans at San Diego, but it's also for them as well. It's like, how do we get people excited? How do we keep people on the hook? How do we keep people invested in what we have to do, especially if we've had a couple things that kind of maybe didn't reach what we wanted them to reach. Lost did this great back in the day when, middle of around season 3, people were like, this show doesn't know where it is going. And they came back hard at Comic-Con and said, here's what's next, here's the ending, and got people back on board. So I think that this was the year that Marvel really needed to hit big at Comic-Con, and I think they really, really did.
Yeah, and we're going to kill two characters we don't need. That's what they did at Lost. Yeah, go ahead, Shannon.
Well, I was going to say agreed, and I can't take credit for this. This was a genius statement made by Mr. Johnny Rocha. But prior to Comic-Con, I'm talking about you. I said something. Go ahead. Prior to Comic-Con, we didn't really know what the official end of Phase 4 was going to be. It was sort of nebulous. And the fact that they did say definitively Black Panther Wakanda Forever is the end of Phase 4, it almost seems sort of like a branding thing, that Phase 4 has been a bit up and down, and it seems like let's get past it, so let's end on a high note, which we are all presuming Black Panther is going to be, and let's start fresh in Phase 5. Yeah. So that was you said that at the restaurant.
Yeah, we did. It's a branding thing, and I thought it was genius because you did two things. By that opening montage, got the Phase 4 defenders to have ammunition to say, see, Phase 4 was about healing from the losses. You people want to run through these losses and go to these places. You guys didn't get it. Phase 4 was about this. And for the people who don't like Phase 4, now you've got a Phase 5 and Phase 6 to look forward to, because they're ending Phase 4. That now has a negative connotation in your mind that can now be put away, and you can have new hope again for Phase 5. So it was really smart all around, and they're geniuses over there at Marvel. There's no doubt about it, and certainly we'll get into that as we get to the panel
and also
later on in the show. Go ahead, Bo.
Just don't forget, if Wakanda Forever is indeed as good as people inside at Marvel are saying it is, and if that trailer looks. Say what you will about Phase 4, and I definitely have a lot to say about some of those movies, but Phase 4 will also have been the phase that introduced us to Shang-Chi, introduced us to Yelena Belova, had Spider-Man No Way Home, and had Wakanda Forever in it. So
and Ms. Marvel.
And Ms. Marvel, and WandaVision. So definitely Phase 4, I think, in retrospect, is going to have some strength to it. So we'll see.
Yeah, they could defend the prequels. They could defend Phase 4. The Jake the Nerd says, you guys rock. Quarantining with COVID, my first time, so I've been lucky. Congratulations to you there, Jake. But it's made easier getting to watch y'all. You guys are fire on Twitter, LOL. Going to my first true con, Baltimore Comic-Con. Nice, in October. Any pointers?
Wash your hands.
Yeah, wash your hands. Comfortable shoes. Don't take off that damn mask no matter how much you want to. Michael, what do you got pointers for him?
Don't let anybody tell you where to go. If you're in a panel and you're loving it and you want to stay. If you don't want to go see a panel, you want to walk the floor. A convention is a very personal experience, and never leave fun to find fun. Just enjoy yourself and follow your gut.
Yeah, and don't get caught up with worrying about all the things you didn't get to. Just enjoy the things you did get to, because no one gets to everything they want to get to at a con. Not even Michael Vogel, and that's saying something.
Yeah, but I come close.
You do. No doubt about it. Doug Developer says, hey, guys, where does Dr. Doom rank for you among the greatest comic book villains ever? He's always on the villain Mount Rushmore alongside Magneto, Lex Luthor, and Joker for me, and I'd love to know what you think makes him so special. Thank you. Gentlemen, who wants to take this one?
Well, I mean, we'll get to this with the Marvel panel, but Phase 6 of Marvel starts with Fantastic Four and ends with Secret Wars. And although Avengers Part 1 is going to be called the Kang Dynasty, in the Jonathan Hickman Secret Wars, which is what they're going to potentially be basing this on, Doctor Doom plays a pretty major role. So I think that Doctor Doom goes back and forth. I think at his peak, he's one of the absolute best Marvel villains, both from a strength level, magical ability, intelligence. He's as smart as Reed Richards. And also from like a personal level, like the dynamic between him and Reed and Sue Storm, like there's just a lot of stuff to play with there. But he can also be a very cheesy villain. And so in the hands of some not good comic book writers, you get a giant dude in a green cape and a metal suit who's just a real kind of basic comic book character. So I think that it's going to be really interesting to see. I think looking at the past iterations of the Fantastic Four movies, Doctor Doom has not fared too well and certainly does not belong on comic book Mount Rushmore. But I'm hoping that Marvel has some plans, like looking at both Fantastic Four and keeping an eye on Secret Wars coming down the pipe. I think they might give us, if they do it right, Doctor Doom could be more badass than Thanos.
Yeah.
If they do it right.
Right. Shan.
You know, I mean, aesthetically, as Vogel said, he depending on the artist, he can look kind of silly, or he can look awesome. Like there was some leaked Doctor Doom promo art, like who knows, I won't say what it's from. But I mean, he looked pretty cool to me. And like I growing up, you know, I was always more of a DC guy, but I mean, he's Lex Luthor with magic. I mean, you know, he's a super smart guy, and he has a personal axe to grind. So that always makes for an interesting villain. And like with most really good villains, he thinks he's right.
Yeah. And those are the best villains usually when they think they're right, for sure. All right, well, let's move on here. Speaking of DC, let's move on to DC Vertigo, and that's the Sandman. We got some. We were able to sit in the panel, Mike Vogel and I, not Shannon, but certainly Michael and I got to sit at that panel and see the presentation there, see all the different actors who have come out onto the stage to talk about it. Tom Sturridge, Gwendolyn Christie, Jenna Coleman, and others there talking about their experience. Kirby Howell-Baptiste talking about their experiences there on Sandman. We had a trailer that was dropped there, a clip that was played there with David Thewlis, and then we just had two other clips from the series dropped today. So there was, I think, two clips and a trailer, and then
we had three clips in the panel that have not been released online, and then two clips that you can go watch online right now that we didn't see in the panel that were released. So all in all, in addition, if you were in Hall H and you are online, there's 5 Sandman clips plus the trailer floating around.
What do I need to watch a show for now, for God's sakes? Yeah. What did you think, Mike? You know, you're the well. Actually, you know what? Let me go first. And since Michael is a bit of the other side of this thing, I will say this: I had a great time with the people's responses on the panel. I'll say that Patton Oswalt was on that panel as well. Boyd Holbrook. It was great to hear their approaches, their thoughts. Neil Gaiman giving his idea of how he approached this, and reminding us that it's an adaptation, not a note to note adaptation or beat to beat adaptation of the comic. So it's its own thing in a way. And we got to see some of those clips. And in the end, I came away really impressed. And that trailer left me very impressed when I left. And watching those clips today, I'm even more impressed. I'm on board with this 100%. Looking forward to seeing what this interpretation is going to be like. Now, I am going to listen to the Audible a little bit later on this week, so that may change and color my perception of this. But for right now, I'm 100% in on this one. Michael, what did you think?
Well, my favorite thing about the panel was Neil Gaiman.
Yes.
Neil Gaiman, in real life, talks the way that Neil Gaiman writes.
Yeah.
So Neil Gaiman will never just say something flat out. Like the moderator would be like, Neil, we have a clip to show. Would you like to show it? And he won't just say, hey, here's this really nice clip we brought for you. Neil Gaiman will go, You know, the thing about clips is that they're like ideas. They float up on the screen for you, you take them in, you wonder about this, and you say, was this my idea, or did it come from somewhere else? Is it whimsical? Is it fantastical? I don't know. Let's play this and see what you think. And you'll be like, you know what? I don't even care if the clip is good or not anymore, because that was lovely. Like, every single time he talked, it was like I could feel my blood pressure just lower, and I would just take a deep breath. And I was like, well, I feel great now. Look, they definitely spent the money on this thing. It is definitely a very high profile production of Sandman that they've definitely taken a lot of care with. I think that it's definitely going to be very, very different than the comic. And they kind of went out of their way on the panel to say that. And like the first clip they showed with David Thewlis is the scene in the diner from the first graphic novel, and it pretty much is just exactly what you would expect. So it's very much like the comic book. But the second panel, the second clip they showed is when Dream meets Joanna Constantine for the first time instead of John Constantine, which he does in the comics. And she is the one in the first season that's going to help him retrieve some of his tools in following that story. And they had a brand new introduction for her that is very different, never seen in the comic, but it was really, really cool. Yeah. It was a really interesting way to introduce her as a character, and you're like, all right, cool. And then they showed a scene from the end of the first graphic novel with Dream when we first meet Death, his sister, who is a fan favorite. And although that scene was very much like exactly what it was in the comic book, I did get a little bit worried about Death's performance, not because Kirby is a bad actress. She's an amazing actress, and she was doing a very, very good job. I just get very, very picky because Death is maybe one of my top 5 comic book characters of all time. So all in all, I think that it's going to be really interesting. Neil Gaiman fans, and fans of Sandman in particular, there's 2 sides to this coin. One, you are absolutely going to get to see a big budget, all-star cast, very, very well produced version of a comic that you love. But it's going to be pretty different. And so, and I'm including myself in this, am I going to be able to pull myself away from that and go, let me just enjoy this for what it is? Yeah. Or am I going to sit there the whole time folding my arms and being like, well, this isn't what I wanted it to be, particularly when the Audible series is exactly what I wanted it to be. So, you know, I think that, and I was talking to a friend of mine who works at Warner Brothers, who covers the show for Netflix. And I said to him, I was like, look, I think it was a very successful panel. I think that the Sandman came to Comic-Con and did what it needed to do. It showed a lot of clips. It had a lot of Neil Gaiman on that panel. It got people excited. The trailer's very impressive. They're clearly feeling good about it because they're dropping more clips on YouTube today. So I think that they really, really want people to see it. Neil Gaiman said a lovely thing about all of us, the fans, being yogurt, or as he calls it, yogurt. But he said that we're the ones that need to see the Sandman and take in the Sandman and then go tell everybody to watch the Sandman, and we're the yogurt that's gonna mix everything up. And I was like, all right, cool, we're gonna all make yogurt. It didn't really make sense, but when he said it was lovely. Yeah. So yeah, I think that I'm gonna definitely watch it. Remains to be seen how I'm gonna feel about it when I watch it.
Fair enough. Shannon, thoughts coming in here? Are you in between us both, or are you more on one side or the other?
Well, did you give your opinion yet?
Yeah. I let off with it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I'm used to Vogel starting.
You must have read an email. Go ahead. Yeah, go
ahead. Based off of the trailer and the 2 clips that came out, I think it looks really good. Now, granted, I do not have the attachment to the property that you guys do. You know, when I know I've mentioned this before, but when I first tried to read it, I couldn't get through it. Like, I just wasn't connecting to it. It was the Audible series that really, really got me into the story.
So you have a connection to it then, having done the Audible, because that's the series. So
yeah, but I don't know it as intimately as you guys do. Fair. So part of the reason that the Audible series is so good are those performances. So watching the clips, you know, for me to be a little critical, like watching the clips, watching the trailer, having James McAvoy's voice in my head, Tom Sturridge, for me, it's a different interpretation. It's a little more, it's very much for camera. It's for the screen. It's a little more reserved. Whereas McAvoy, it's like he's doing Shakespeare. Like, I mean, it's like Richard III. I mean, he is acting to the back of the house in a good way. And like I'll be curious if I connect with Sturridge. Now, to Vogel's point about death, Kat Dennings in the Audible series, I was like, she's fine. Like, I'm not a huge Kat Dennings fan. Kirby Howell-Baptiste, which I guess is sort of a bit of a change for the character, a different interpretation. Yeah. I loved her scene. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a different take, because I mean, I know the art that Death's like kind of like a little goth chick.
Yeah.
But watching Kirby Howell-Baptiste, I mean, like just thinking about that scene with the old man, yeah. It brought tears to my eyes. I was like, this is such an incredibly delicate performance, and it was beautiful. So because I don't know the material as intimately as you guys do, the changes that they made for the series may really work for me. The only thing that kind of is sticking out for me a little bit is Tom Sturridge.
Well, as Michael might be the perfect audience for Lord of the Rings, you might be the perfect audience for this. You're a little more open to it. You're familiar with the material. You're just not as invested. So you create more space to kind of, operate within it. So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on it. If we decide to do reviews on it, which I think we should, it would be fun to kind of break this thing down. Maybe the first 4 episodes and the last half or whatever it is, we can have a discussion about it for sure off camera, but that could be fun to do for sure, to hear different points of views coming at this thing overall. Let's hit some more of these Streamlabs Super Chats before we move on to our next section here. This Philip Bryan says, I'm in humid southern Missouri. That's the other Philip in London. Oh, my bad. Still a good show. Looking forward to the Marvel chat. For sure that's coming.
Did you send that walking down the gravel road with your bicycle on your arm in Missouri, that you were like, you read that and you're like, motherfucker, I am in Missouri right now and this bike is heavy.
I love it. The Jughead said, big up to you, John, Shannon, and Michael. I loved the new Wakanda Forever trailer. R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman. I would have loved for the character to be recast. Do we want to open the door to that one, or wait till the Marvel panel discussion?
Well, I would just say, because I've seen a lot of people say it, and I get it, and I would also say that given what Secret Wars is, if you know the story, once you get past phase 6, I think there's a lot of potential for recasting, recreating, rebuilding, revisiting, rebooting. So I think that even if they're making this choice now, in the long run, it does not mean that there can't be a new T'Challa.
Yeah. Well, certainly we saw a new Black Panther possibly.
Well, there's definitely a new Black Panther, but that's continuing the story of the Black Panther, not recasting T'Challa.
True. Thoughts, Shannon? What did you think of this? Real quick, would you want to?
Yeah, like in the wake of Chadwick Boseman's passing, it seemed like everyone was kind of on the same page. It's like you can't recast him like this. He's T'Challa. But as time goes on, and while people still love that Boseman performance, and in a lot of people's hearts, he will always be their T'Challa. Yeah. There is there is a love for the character that it's like the character's bigger than one performer. Yeah. And a lot of folks who in the aftermath were like, don't recast him, are now being like, it's an important character, and I think that's maybe what Boseman would want, is for the character to keep going. And as Vogel put, there are certainly avenues where that could be a possibility.
Yep. And that's certainly possible down the road. We'd love to see that. The Jughead said, hey, John, I see that Namor is from a hybrid Mexican/Aztec heritage. Yeah. Glad to see your people are finally being represented. I agree. Love and respect to you all from the UK. Thanks, Jughead. Yeah, it was a very moving moment to have Tenoch Huerta up there on the stage talking in Spanish and giving a shout out to the people that came before him, and giving a shout out to the people who crossed the river to speak about that, and to talk about how them crossing the river, leaving the people they love behind to find a better life, is what led him to be on that stage and take on this role. And the beautiful images we saw, which we'll get to, the beautiful images we saw in that trailer, I think will be fantastic to witness and experience for sure. Yeah.
I also think we didn't all get to sit together for the Marvel panel in Hall H because it was so crowded and we all kind of found our spots. But when Namor started speaking Spanish, I promise you, my friend leaned over to me and goes, you think Rocha's crying right now? And I go, Rocha's definitely crying right now. Rocha is definitely crying right now.
I was. And I gave him a standing ovation instead of crying in the alley or in the hallway there, whatever, the walkway there, because of it. Taylor Reed says, love you guys. Started watching / listening with WandaVision and stayed ever since. Dreamcast for the Fantastic Four. I'm hoping Dev Patel for Mr. Fantastic. First of all, Taylor, thanks so much for finding us. And thanks so much for staying aboard. But yeah, gentlemen, I mean, a diverse cast for Fantastic Four has happened before. So it would not be out of the realm possibility to see it now, including Jessica Alba as a Latina Sue Storm, even though she was whitewashed in those films. And then you had Michael B. Jordan as well in the most recent iteration of Fantastic Four. So what do you all think in terms of casting?
I mean, I don't even know at this point. We've had this question before, and I'm not dodging it. I'm not dodging it because I don't have opinions on it. But at this point, after kind of just like, and we'll get into this in the Marvel panel, but really trying to understand where the Fantastic Four is even fitting in. Are we getting an origin story? Are they coming in from another universe? Like, what is even going to happen? It's hard to even, are we going to get a younger Reed Richards and a younger Sue? Are we going to get an older Reed Richards and Sue who already have their kids? There are just so many questions on the table that it's hard to even start to do Dreamcast because I need some context. Like, am I doing a younger cast? Am I doing these older people? It could be literally anything at this point.
Yeah, fair enough. Jen?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many incredibly talented actors that have been suggested for all the roles that it's sort of difficult. It's difficult to pick one at this point. The only character that I would say for Ben Grimm, and it depends on the age they go. God, I'd love to see Liev Schreiber as Ben Grimm. I think he would be a great Ben Grimm.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think they're looking at 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds. I don't think they're looking
probably what it is.
Yeah,
I don't know. Again, not that. I mean, we'll get into this more, but like Marvel never does a direct adaptation of a comic book. That Civil War was not a direct adaptation of Civil War. So it's never Secret Invasion is not going to be a direct adaptation of Secret Invasion. But there are elements of the Jonathan Hickman Secret Wars where both Valeria and Franklin Richards, Sue and Reed's kids, play a pretty major role. And for sure, that doesn't have to be the case, and it very well might not be the case. But they are significant enough in the Doctor Doom part of the story, if that is the way they go, that it makes me think that there's a possibility that they might at least entertain parts of that in the way they introduce them. Or it could be a bunch of 20 to 30-year-olds and fuck me, I'm wrong. It could be anything.
That's the camp I'm in. We'll see. Justin Gallagher says, I love you, buds. With all the new Marvel casting announcements, who do you think is cast as who? I like Jesse Pinkman for Nova. Also, Mike/Shannon, any inside scoop on Jeff Smith's animated Bone cancellation from Netflix? Gentlemen, thoughts?
Man, I don't have any insider information. The only insider information I have that I could reveal without like getting anyone in trouble is that no one at Netflix seems pretty happy to be at Netflix right now. Like, particularly on the animation side, it just seems like it's just a bloodbath in there. And for something like Bone, which has such a following and is honestly such a great, amazing comic book, the excitement around that being a Netflix animated series was so huge. So I think the general feeling is, if that's not going to make it, what the fuck is going to make it? Like, what's happening with animation at Netflix? Nobody knows.
Fair point. Shannon, any thoughts?
Yeah, no insider information. Vogel knows more about this stuff than I do, so we'll just leave it with him. In terms of Jesse Pinkman as Nova, I mean, I don't.
That's Aaron Paul,
know.
Isn't it? Is that
Aaron
Jesse
Paul?
Pinkman? Okay, yeah, I haven't finished that show yet. So
I don't know. I feel like he had his at bat with being a lead of a movie, and it didn't quite go well. Not his fault. Just Need for Speed wasn't a good movie.
Right.
I don't know. He might be a TV guy, and
I think he's exactly where he needs to be at.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with it. He's quite successful doing that.
People would love to be TV people.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Chris Cox, real quick, says, just loving the conversation. You guys are awesome. Glad you had a good time. Thank you.
You should have. Well, this was what 4 days in that hotel was like the entire time, so you should have been there.
For sure. And my brother, the Barbarian, Craig Gainier, is in here. My thoughts on the Marvel panel. Footage shown was fantastic, especially Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and the Wakanda trailers, but they gave very little new info on what they did had been widely speculated or easily deduced. Oh, wow. I don't know about that in terms of Phase 5 and Phase 6, but certainly Secret Wars had been predicted, but nobody saw the Kang Dynasty coming. And the splitting up of the phases that had not been announced ahead of time. So there was just a little bit more of information.
I think, and again, we'll get it. I mean, I think that the stuff they showed was fantastic. I agree with that. You're not wrong that. In the little amounts of new information they gave, there was a couple bombs in there, like big bombs, like the 2 Avenger movies, like just like boom, like it really hit big. But I do think they're saving a lot of the new information. Like I think when we get to D23, it's going to be like, oh, and by the way, here's the Young Avengers, here's a mutant movie, here's a this. Like they're definitely saving some stuff for D23. But I think coming into Comic-Con and showing what they showed on the films that we already knew were coming and the TV shows we knew were coming and kind of giving context around it definitely got people as excited as they needed to and set the stage for the new information they're going to drop at D23.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on here. Let's hit real quick. John Wick 4 dropped about a minute teaser. Thoughts on that? I mean, he's fighting... Was it fighting Jet Li in that? No, wait, not Jet Li. Who was he fighting? Donnie Yen, I think. Donnie Yen. He's fighting Donnie Yen in that thing. And he's using samurai swords to block bullets. So let's talk about the madness of the minute and 10 seconds of that trailer. What did you guys think real quick of that one before we move on to the DC panel?
I mean, it seems like John Wick, because, that first movie, I was a big fan of that first movie. The second one kind of went off the rails for me a little bit. The third one was, I think it's sort of embracing a Fast and Furious like silliness. But it's fun. I mean, the fact that he's blocking bullets with a sword, to me, I'm like, awesome. Is this what this has become? This is what we're doing? Great, run with it, because it's sort of an accidental franchise. Like they didn't know this was going to happen.
Weinstein tried to kill this thing, and it survived in spite of that fool. Yeah. What'd you think of the minute teaser there, Michael?
I cannot believe that we have gotten 4 movies out of a man getting his dog killed. Like that, and like God bless them for it, because I love and it's the perfect role for Keanu Reeves because there's not a lot of acting.
Oh, how dare you?
No, I don't mean it. I go to the Church of Keanu. I love the man.
Doesn't sound like it.
But Keanu Reeves is like a classic movie star in the sense that Keanu Reeves goes on screen, and when Keanu Reeves plays Keanu Reeves, we love everything he does. You put Keanu Reeves in a Shakespearean period piece with a ruffled coat and have him do Shakespeare, no. But you put Keanu Reeves in a thing where he's going to have some swords, punch some things, and you say, hey, you ready to do this? And he goes, yeah. You're like, yeah, man, I'm good. Let's do it. I'm in.
All right, fair enough. I like his acting, and I like to see him in this. But you're right, Michael. This is a perfect franchise for Keanu because he's kicking ass in this thing. And this late in life, God love him to be able to find a franchise. Not a lot of actors, movie stars or not, get to have multiple franchises. Stallone is one of the few with Rambo and Rocky. Keanu now with The Matrix and this. So shout out to him for sure.
Harrison Ford a little bit sometimes.
Right, Harrison Ford as well. Good point. Yes, for sure. Although it's not the lead of Star Wars. That's Mark Hamill.
Oh, you wanna open up that can of worms and start fighting, but okay.
He's not really the guy we're following.
Star Wars isn't really a Han Solo thing.
Not really. It's more of the Skywalker. It's called the Skywalker saga, not the Solo saga. So anyway, let's move on before we lose ourselves into an hour of a black hole. DC panel here. Let's move on to the DC panel, then we'll get to the Marvel stuff right after that. I know we got a little bit of about an hour left in the show, so let's get into DC here. A little bit underwhelming from.
Well, fortunately, there's not a lot to talk about with DC, so we'll get to Marvel real quick.
That's true. A little bit of an underwhelming situation here. We had Shazam 2 Fury of the Gods there. Shazam Fury of the Gods come out with Zachary Levi, Lucy Liu, Helen Mirren was there with Rachel Zegler on Zoom. David F. Sandberg was there. The kids were there, Asher Angel, and I forget the other kid's name, but they were all there hanging out talking about it. And then we had a massive presentation for Black Adam, The Rock coming out dressed as Black Adam with the lightning bolts and all of that, talking about it. There was Jean Collet-Serra, the director of the film as well, to talk about everything. And then they had a Q&A where they kind of had to answer the Superman question because all these websites and these influencers pushed this narrative that Henry Cavill was going to be showing up at this panel and he never showed up at this panel, and they had to deal with the fallout, so much so that Jean-Claude Sarah had to say neither Superman nor Shazam are in this movie, even though The Rock himself had tweeted out this idea that he knows what the fans want. He likes to listen to the fans with a picture, or retweeted out himself with a picture of Superman facing off against Black Adam. So a lot of confusing messages, confusing signs here. And in the end, no talk about Aquaman 2, which is right around the corner. No talk about the Flash movie. No talk about all these other projects, Blue Beetle, Batgirl. None of this stuff happened. So, Shannon, I'll go to you first. Thoughts, feelings, opinions on this?
I mean, this is... You understand why they didn't bring up the Flash and Aquaman, in that there are two performers.
You understood why, but you maybe didn't agree with it, right? Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's why that kind of opens up a can of worms, that they wanted to focus on the things that are also the closest, but also the things that are the least problematic right now.
Yeah, true.
I mean, in terms of the footage, like, again, I was not in there for DC, but I saw the Rock's entrance on the internet, and look, it was awesome. It was awesome. I mean, The Rock with a live crowd. You know, this man is
he's tailor-made for that.
I mean, this man's a WWE superstar, so, like, you know, he knows how to work a crowd. In terms of the footage, like, man, I'm excited to see Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. Like, again, I don't think there's anything at this point with what we've seen. There's nothing wrong with The Rock's performance. It's just knowing his body of work, and can he get there for those more emotional moments that I think the character is going to require in a story like this. I like his supporting cast a lot. Again, I love the Pierce Brosnan. I hate that we have seen as little of Aldous Hodge as we have at this point, but the movie, it looks like a fine, fun movie that, you know, we'll go see on an afternoon someplace. The Fury of the Gods, it was interesting because the first time I saw Shazam, I thought Shazam was a delight. The second time I saw it, I was like, okay, I get the critique that there is a disconnect between Billy and Shazam. Like, it is very much not, doesn't seem like it's the same guy. With this, I don't know. I mean, again, it looks like another fine chapter in the Shazam universe. I mean, I did like that he specifically is calling out other superheroes. Like, there's already a guy in a red suit with a lightning bolt, and the fact that they didn't show Ezra Miller's face in that footage, like, well, there we go. Calls out Aquaman, calls out Batman. Again, it looks fine. It looks fine. Did they show anything else from the movie in the panel, or was it just a trailer?
Not from what I heard. It was just the trailer, and there was a big presentation with Lucy Liu and the broom and lightning bolts and all of that. And Helen Mirren saying hooray for pussy power. That was pretty much it that you saw in the trailer, or in the panel. So I think that was pretty much it.
Yeah, this just seems like a case where DC's getting vilified for something that they did not promise.
They played it right. Yeah, the Henry Cavill thing. Yes, absolutely. Mike, thoughts on this panel, and were you underwhelmed, overwhelmed, or do you think they did the correct thing by playing it safe, so to speak?
No. Well, they definitely didn't do the right thing by playing it safe, because I think the proof is in the pudding. I mean, you know, everyone's coming out at, like, Marvel came in and just, like, said, hey, here's the next 4 to 5 years of movies for you guys. Like, this is where we're going. And as soon as they put their stake in the ground and said, here's the next 2 Avengers movies at the end of Phase 6, they kind of bought themselves some stinkers.
Yeah.
Like they bought themselves that, like, we know what we're getting, and we know, and this is the power of sort of having this bigger story. Yeah. Meanwhile, you've got the 2 movies you came out with, The Rock was awesome. His entrance was awesome. People went crazy for given that they were just going to show these 2 trailers or show these 2 movies. It was a fine panel.
Yeah.
You know, Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods, that there is nothing wrong with that trailer. It looks like tonally, it's the same as the first movie. Mm-hmm. It looks fine. It looks fun. The effects look cool, but it didn't necessarily rev anybody's engine. And then you have Shazam's biggest villain, Black Adam, come out for the other half of the panel.
Yeah.
And he has his movie coming out. And we all love The Rock, and we're excited to see Aldous Hodge, and we're excited to see Pierce Brosnan. But not only did they then have to clarify that despite all the rumors, Superman's not showing up, Also, Shazam's not showing up. So you have a panel that's Shazam and Black Adam, two characters who go together, and they're in two completely separate movies that have nothing to do with each other. And on top of that, you don't talk Aquaman 2, you don't talk Flashpoint, you don't tease a little bit more, hey, here's the latest we've got with Michael Keaton. You don't come in with more information about what else we might be seeing in Flashpoint. You don't talk about Blue Beetle. You don't talk about Batgirl. You don't confirm or deny or say, here's what Joker 2 is really going to be all about. Like, DC's problem...
Or even the Batman.
Yeah. DC's problem isn't that they don't have a bunch of stuff going on. It's just they don't seem to have any capability to sort of say, here's how we should talk about it. Like, we talk a lot about, obviously I'm a big Marvel fan, so I love the Marvel universe and all the pieces and how is it all building to stuff. But even if DC decided not to do that and just said, we're not doing this whole interconnected universe. All of these things are separate. They're all going to live in their own movies. Like, that's how we're going to do it. Tell us that, but then be excited. What really this year felt like for DC, and I get it, there's a bunch of shit going on that I wouldn't be happy to be a DC executive right now either, between Ezra Miller and Amber Heard and everything else. But DC seems like they're more embarrassed about what's going on with their universe than they are excited.
Yeah, I think so too. And as I mentioned when we were talking about in the hotel room, a certain somebody shows up in that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 trailer, who's had some issues and accusations, and the crowd went crazy when that guy showed up. So I think DC really made a mistake here and not just putting out some more Flashpoint stuff with having Michael Keaton lead the way, even having imagine getting Ben Affleck to come back, be a part of a panel to talk about what it's like to put the cowl on again. You should have paid him up the ass to have him come and do that. People would have been very happy to see that. If you can't get Cavill, at least Affleck was here to talk about putting the cowl on again with Michael Keaton. What is that? That would have, I think that would have brought the house down for sure. And on the other side, having Momoa come out with James Wan, with Patrick Wilson talking about their experiences making the sequel, that would have been enough. And they know, the fans know, none of them would have come up and asked an uncomfortable question. I don't think they would have, because you have to tell them, the security person, what question you're going to ask. And the second you go off that, you are escorted out of that auditorium and you're not allowed back. So why would you take that risk? It makes no sense. So,
but even if, to your point, even if you wanted to not touch Aquaman, I mean, Amber Heard, I think, is a non-issue as long as you don't talk about her. Like Aquaman 2, Momoa should have come out and stood there with Zach Levi and The Rock. You know, you should have had Blue Beetle come out.
Yeah,
you should have had Batgirl come out.
Agreed.
If you had a moment with DC where even if you just, we're not going to talk about Ezra Miller. Where in the world is Ezra Miller? We're going to not touch Ezra Miller. Yeah. If you had Zach Levi, Dwayne Johnson, Blue Beetle, Batgirl, Aquaman, and maybe even like Supergirl and Michael Keaton, people would have lost their shit.
It would have been more than enough. More than enough. You're absolutely right. All right, let's move on from the DC panel. Let's jump into because we're running out of time. Let's move into the Marvel animation panel, which was a really great thing for us to experience there. Marvel animation, we got in there. We got to see a trailer for I Am Groot. We got to see one of the shorts. There are going to be 5 shorts coming out. We found out also that there will be 5 other shorts that they're working on that will be coming soon. We got to see some character designs from Spider-Man Freshman Year. Also hear that there's a second season being worked on called, surprisingly enough, Sophomore Year. We also got What If Season 2, and we got to see one of the episodes from What If Season 2 with Captain Carter back. We also got some information on Marvel Zombies and X-Men 97, which was pretty awesome to see that was coming back. And we found out that the original actors are coming back to be a part of voicing those characters from X-Men 97. So there was a lot to savor and enjoy here, maybe giving us a bit of an appetizer, a first course meal of what we were going to be seeing in the full Marvel panel, which we'll get to in just a little bit. So Michael, back to you here on this. Animation wise, what was your impressions coming out of this Marvel animation panel? What stood out to you? What did you enjoy? What did you not enjoy?
It was a blast. I wish we had seen more actual animation, but they're clearly early in the process on a lot of this, so there wasn't a lot of actual animation to show. But given that, there was some really great things. I mean, I know we want to get to the big news of the Marvel panel, but really quickly, I Am Groot, adorable. The short they showed had people dying. I mean, it's basically Baby Groot on little tiny adventures that are really comedic, really funny, and I think it's just going to be a delight. Spider-Man Sophomore Year, I think the biggest surprise is that it really seems like it's going to be like it's a multiverse situation. This is definitely not our Peter Parker from the Marvel Universe, because they revealed that he gets help from Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
He meets up with Daredevil. Two of his friends are Amadeus Cho and Nico from the Runaways. So definitely we've got a black Harry Osborn and a black Norman Osborn. They even went so far as to say, oh, instead of walking in and finding Aunt May talking to Tony Stark, this Peter Parker walks in and finds Aunt May talking to Norman Osborn. So definitely this is kind of an alternate reality Peter Parker, but I'm here for it. It's really, really exciting. Marvel Zombies looks amazing. And like really expanding that Zombies universe, showed us a lot of the characters that we saw from Marvel Zombies episode of What If, but we're getting Captain Marvel, we're getting Miss Marvel, we're getting most of the cast of Shang-Chi, we're getting Yelena and the Red Guardian, we're getting a gang of biker Skrulls, we're getting a gang of Black Widows. Like, they're really fucking going for it. And this is going to be TVMA, like they said. So we're really going to get something that's way more mature than I think people were even expecting. And then X-Men 97, really, like Johnny said, the original cast coming back. Like, this isn't just we liked X-Men 97 and it's our jumping off point. I'm gonna have to go back and watch all of X-Men 97, because there were some plot threads that were dropped that we're picking back up. We are really continuing the story. It's the original cast, but adding some great new characters, adding Sunspot, Nightcrawler, Emma Frost. Like, it's gonna be a ride, and the entire team seems so passionate, even going so far as to say without X-Men 97, without the original X-Men animated series, we might not have an MCU. Like that's how formative that animated series was for people. And then What If, awesome trailer for What If, and then showing us this entire first episode, what if Peggy Carter fought the Hydra Stomper, which is basically the Peggy Carter version of Captain America Winter Soldier. And it was just great, and kind of set up, just like season 1 was kind of all about assembling this Guardians of the Multiverse to fight Ultron. It seems like the big connective tissue in season 2 is somehow circling around 1602, the Neil Gaiman Marvel comic graphic novel that came out several years ago, or comic book series. It's now in graphic novel form. That's just a great series. So definitely got me wanting to go back and reread 1602, and overall got me very excited about Marvel animation. I mean, it really seems like they're doubling down and going big into animation and using it to tell stories that they just really couldn't tell in the mainline MCU.
Right on. Great points, Mike. Shannon, thoughts on the animation panel, and what stood out to you and what did you enjoy?
Well, the great thing about that panel was we weren't sure if we were going to get in it.
Yeah,
because
true.
we went and got breakfast in the morning at the Broken Yoke. And as we were coming back, because there was a panel right before it.
Yeah.
And it was sort of like generally what happens when you have a big high profile panel like a Marvel, people will get into that room or that hall and stay until that panel. So you're kind of going through stuff that you wouldn't necessarily care to watch. So the presumption that we had going in as we were walking over, like, we're not going to get in this. Where's the line? I actually was directing Vogel to the outside of the line where I had to wait the day before. I'm like, well, we got to go this way. And the lady guarding the door is like, what are you guys doing? And pointed, and there's no line together. We just walk right in. I was like, oh, hey, fantastic. And so then, Kalinowski joined, Johnny joined. Everything that they showed was just awesome. I mean, and again, you just feel, especially from Bo DeMaio, who is running X-Men 97. Like he was electric on the microphone.
He was a lot of things on that panel. I was not prepared for how handsome that man is.
But just hearing him talk about his upbringing and how he related to the X-Men, like, it was just, you love hearing creators that are passionate about their creations. Mm-hmm. And like, sometimes writers are not the most dynamic public speakers. And like Vogel is an exception. But Bo was great. And like the other creators, they were real nice. And it was just like, you could tell they love what they do. And the Groot shorts because Vogel and I are currently working on a shorts show that Vogel runs. It was a really interesting comparison to be like, okay, this is how they told a complete story in this tiny little amount of time. So it was very educational. The what if stuff was awesome. It was just awesome seeing the glimpses of the things that we're going to get. And then as to the zombies as well, like seeing the sort of Mad Max post-apocalyptic visuals that they're giving some of the characters, some of their new looks. I mean, a Skrull biker gang. Come on, get out of here. Yeah. Spider-Man looked cool. And even though I was not an X-Men watcher, I had kind of gotten out of animation at that point, hearing they did a kind of a behind the scenes thing where they had interviewed a lot of the cast, and again hearing the joy that they're getting to return to these characters over 20 years later. It was just great awesome stuff to see.
It's one of the gifts of animation. You never fully age out of voicing over a character.
See, Clarissa in the chat just looked up Bo after my reaction. What's his go look him up on Twitter. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all you got to do, and you're gonna be like, wow, Vogel.
But does he have a good personality? That's what we really care about. I think.
He has. Like he did. he has a really really ripped personality.
Heyo.
And a really 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 nerdy passionate body.
That's for sure.
Yeah, his sense of humor is shredded.
I don't have quite the connection to some of the stuff that we saw in the Marvel animation panels you guys do, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. I loved Kirsten Lepore and what she was talking about with her approach to the I Am Groot short. So that got me really excited. Then we saw the short. I'm like, if this is what it is, this is a phenomenally awesome breath of fresh air here in the MCU. Nice to see this fun kind of approach to it that honors the spirit of Groot, both the good and the sometimes vengeful nature of Groot. And I love that. And then getting to see the what if stuff. I loved what if. And so to have this, to get this trailer that we got, which was really cool. And then to get the actual episode, an actual episode in the panel, I thought was so great. Curious about freshman year, though. We're not seeing it till 2024. So we got a while to wait before Spider-Man goes back to high school. But nice to see different characters being mixed in here from the world of the MCU. So I'm very curious to see how that's going to go. X-Men 97, I've never seen an episode of it. I know people love it and are addicted to it. So this will be a fun exploration for me personally to kind of see it through their eyes. I suppose I'll have to catch up before this thing comes out and watch that series. So that'll be interesting for sure. Marvel Zombies, I read them in the comics, but so now I'm curious to see how this transfers over. But seeing all these other characters that we've seen introduced here in Phase 4, Shang-Chi, and Shang-Chi's a friend. I can't remember the character's name. Huh?
Katie.
Yeah, Katie coming in, Ms. Marvel coming in. So it's going to be interesting to see all these characters kind of moving through the Marvel zombie situation. So I'm curious for all of that. So I came out of it feeling very excited and ready to see more of this animation stuff from Marvel for sure. Now, let's move on to the bigger panel. Now that everybody's been waiting for it, because I know we're running out of time. So we've got to jump into this, spend a lot of time with this. The Marvel panel here and there it is, was an explosion. We got Michael Feige joining us, but it was an explosion of incredibleness from beginning to end. Here we got a trailer for She-Hulk. Attorney at Law Tatiana Maslany came out with most of the cast there to talk about their experiences. We got a trailer for Secret Invasion showing us a bearded Nick Fury, Olivia Colman, and others. Don Cheadle dealing with the Kree Skrulls and all that stuff. We got a phenomenally emotional trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 with James Gunn. God damn it, stop calling. With James Gunn and other cast members coming out to introduce that and talk about the experiences of doing that. We got some information on Loki Season 2, on Blade, on Echo, on Ironheart, on Agatha, Coven of Chaos, on Captain America, New World Order, on Daredevil, Born Again, which will be 18 episodes coming out in spring of 2024. We got Thunderbolts news. We got Fantastic Four arriving in theaters supposedly on November 8th, 2024. And then we got the news that Phase 6, we jumped all the way to Phase 6, will end with both Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars back-to-back. And as if that wasn't enough, we got an incredibly life-changing trailer, just the trailer, teaser trailer no less, for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and a first poster for it. I went to Mike first on Marvel Animation. So Shannon, I'm gonna go to you first on this Marvel panel. Talk about it. What stood out to you? What worked for you? What moved you? What was so incredible? What didn't work for you? Talk about it all, my man.
So it was very, very last minute that I got to go into the Marvel panel. I had kind of resigned myself to be like, I'm not going to get in this year. I would like to, but no big deal. So I was actually doing some work for Mr. Vogel up in the hotel room, and our friend Jonathan Cabay worked some of his magic and got myself and Mike Kalinowski in. So, and
I just feel it needs to be said.
Uh-oh.
That when you're trying to get your friends into the panel and your friends are very nervous, it makes it harder to do. Shannon is not Shannon is not the smoothest when it comes to all right, here's what we got to do to get into the panel.
Don't leave out Kalinowski. Apparently both Shannon and Kalinowski were ready to push Gabay's car over the hill or over the mountain so they could escape the situation for sure.
There was a miscommunication in terms of the operation. Kalinowski and I were very much on the same page, and it turns out Gabay was a couple of pages ahead of us.
Yeah.
Either way, we got in, and Marvel they have mastered the Hall H panel at Comic-Con. I mean, from beginning to end, it's just so much fun. It's interesting, like watching Feige come out. Like, I'm remembering the first time I saw him, I believe was 2010, 2010 or I think it was 2010. But like watching him, like he's aged, like he still looks good for a man of his years, but it's like, oh, he's getting older. Yeah. Look at that. The first time he came out, it was 12 years ago. But the panel starts and there's just an electricity in the room that is impossible to articulate. Like everyone is so freaking excited. And in terms of what we saw, I mean, coming into this, people have been disappointed with movies, have been disappointed with series, and it seems like they're back on track again. You can't count your chickens until they hatch, but it seems like they're back on track, and it seems like we know the direction they're going now. And some of like the Daredevil announcement, the fact that is going to be 18 episodes. I mean, that's Falcon, Winter Soldier, Loki, and Ms. Marvel. That's all of them together. They're going to do that many episodes. The Ant-Man trailer.
Yes,
I had
Ant-Man and Wasp. Yes, Quantumania was put out there as well.
Quantumania, like it looks like it is going to be such a wild, crazy, fun movie. And at the conclusion of the trailer, of the footage that we saw, there is Jonathan Majors in all his Kang glory, having a scene with Scott Lang, where Scott Lang says, "I'm an Avenger." The crowd goes crazy. Jonathan Major says a line back, and because everyone is so loud, we don't know what he said.
We don't know what he said.
There are theories online. I saw his mouth moves. What people are saying, I'm like, it doesn't line up. Ugh. But it looks like it's such a blast. And then, like, bringing the Guardian cast out. And, again, seeing just the true affection this team has for each other. Will Poulter coming out, getting to see Will Poulter as Adam Warlock. I mean, the dude is huge. I mean, the guy, his arms are enormous. He looks awesome. And the Secret Invasion trailer, like that seems to be very much in the sci-fi vein of Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier was sci-fi. It just looks so unlike something they've done in a while. So just super, like, it seems super serious. Watching Rhodey, who appears to have gotten into politics. Yeah. I mean, it's just so exciting. And the whole Wakanda Forever panel footage, watching the cast together. I mean, Ryan Coogler just told a beautiful, touching story that I will let one of you guys try to repeat because I won't get through it without crying. And then watching the trailer, the panel ends and they start the trailer again, and 90% of the crowd, and some of them been there all day, 90% of the crowd sits back down to watch it again.
Mikey, those are great points, Shannon. Fantastically well said. And Mike, what were your What stood out to you? What do you?
Yeah,
take
well,
away
let me
from-
run this down because you guys listening didn't get to see all the stuff that we saw. So I'm gonna do my best to give you the Michael Vogel interpretation of what you didn't get to see. So first the Marvel panel starts. They do an amazing sort of Phase 4 sizzle reel. I've said it before. I love a Marvel sizzle reel. It gets me every time. This one was no exception. Shang-Chi shows up. Crowd goes wild. Yelena Belova shows up. Crowd goes wild. Miss Marvel shows up. Crowd goes double wild. Like, people were in it. Yeah. Then they showed the She-Hulk trailer, which you guys have all, I'm sure, seen now online. The whole cast comes out, talks about how it's Marvel's first out-and-out comedy, lots of cameos.
Sitcom.
Yeah, like a sitcom. Like it's like Ally McBeal but green. Like it's going to be exciting things. Then Quantumania happens. Opens up with Scott Lang reading a book all about him being an Avenger and saving the universe at like a bookstore. Bunch of kids giving him big smiles. He's like, "Hey, look out for the little guy." And then you see him around the table.
Don't spoil the trailer. People are gonna watch it. Don't spoil it.
All right. I won't spoil it all. I'm just gonna say you get to see everybody. You get to see Michelle Pfeiffer. You get to see Michael Douglas. You get to see Evangeline Lilly and Scott Lang. You get to see oh crap, what's Scott's daughter's name?
Cassie.
Cassie, who is gonna be potentially Stature as a young Avenger, and you get to see that they all go on this massive adventure. Hint of a big Marvel villain. Am I allowed to say? Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I mean, we saw Kang.
We'll save it. Sure, we saw Kang.
Yeah.
And somebody else.
Yes, we did see somebody else. Yeah.
We saw Kang and somebody else, and was confirmed that the somebody else was who we thought we saw from Peyton Reed. If you want to know who it was, say so in the chat, and then they'll have to let me tell you. And then the Guardians trailer just blew everybody away. Like, James Gunn kind of came out and said that this is the end of his story, that even if Guardians goes on in the MCU, this was the story he set out to tell in 3 movies, that he knew going in that this was the story he wanted to tell for Peter Quill. This was the story that he wanted to tell for Rocket. And some of the shots in the trailer that you see of Rocket make it really, really clear that more than half of us are going to be bawling our eyes out about that. And then we see that we really pick up the threads of Peter and Gamora from the end of Endgame. And that is a huge, huge part of this trailer. And the best part about this was after the trailer came out, like, the entire Guardians cast that was out there talking to James Gunn, talking about their experience, like, they were straight up emotional. Yeah. Every one of them. Like, Chris Pratt's voice cracked when he thanked James Gunn for being a part of everything. Like, it was really, really lovely. Like Shannon was saying, like, with the Secret Invasion stuff, again, picking up right after Endgame and what we know of Nick Fury, that he's been up on this base and he hasn't been on Earth, and he comes back to Earth, and Maria Hill, I will say this part of the trailer, Maria Hill basically tells him, like, you haven't been here for a while, and he's like, what I got to deal with, you couldn't handle on your own. And that it very much has this thriller sci-fi vibe to it. Really, really exciting. And then the theater goes dark, and you hear the first few lines sung from the Wakanda track from Black Panther, and you turn and you see a guy in full African garb singing live in the audience as a drummer behind him is drumming, and they sing all the way through the audience, go up on stage where an entire troupe of dancers in traditional African dance do this extended dance to introduce Ryan Coogler coming on stage. Absolutely blew everyone away. And then, to Shannon's point, Ryan Coogler tells this amazing story about how when they were there 5 years earlier to show the first footage of Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman hadn't seen the footage. And he's like, Chad had these huge hands, and he put his hand on my shoulder during the footage. He kept squeezing it, and he squeezed so hard that for the rest of the day, my shoulder hurt. And I got to tell you guys, I can feel Chadwick's hand on my shoulder right now. He's here with us. And the crowd, including Shannon McClung below me right now, just lost it. It was so beautiful. And the whole cast coming out on stage, very somber, very just sad. I mean, like, they all were, like, remembering Chadwick. And then that trailer dropped. And when I tell you that crowd went wild, like, the crowd went absolutely wild. Like, it was really something to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And just blown away by all of it. And like any actor knows, or any creator knows, you got to build to the big climax. And they were building throughout the whole thing. Just when you thought it couldn't get any more insane, we couldn't get any more crazier, There was the High Evolutionaries walking through the crowd, which some of us liked and some of us didn't. We just when we thought we couldn't get the emotions on Sean Gunn when they went to him talking about working with his brother, that snapped me in half already because he was really letting his emotions come through. Because as Michael said, a lot of these actors, they hadn't seen the footage before, so they were seeing it for the first time. There are some shots of Chris Pratt in that trailer that absolutely wrecked me. And then you throw on top the Rocket Raccoon stuff. It was even more devastating emotionally. So as if that wasn't enough, we get to the Wakanda Forever trailer. And as Michael said, that presentation was incredible. Put you in the right mood, having all those actors come out, having everybody hooting at M'Baku. Doing all that shit to M'Baku was incredible. And him playing with it, speaking to the crowd in the accent that he uses in the movie. All of it was great from Winston Duke. So everything all around worked so well. And then they played the fucking trailer and the crowd broke. Everyone collectively broke. There's been so much around this film that people have been talking about and wondering about, and if they're going to get it right, or is it going to honor Chadwick? Should they recast? Should they brought in a new Black Panther? And that trailer absolutely nailed it. Whoever edited that thing deserves all kinds of bonuses and awards from Marvel because it is one of the most watched trailers already ever. So that tells you the impact of Black Panther. People try to denigrate that movie all the time and try to say it didn't deserve to be Best Picture nomination. It wasn't even the best comic book movie of the year. Ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. That movie affected the world. And this sequel looks like it's going to affect the world in even more profound ways. And bringing in Tenoch Huerta to play Submariner and turning his and putting his heritage in a different direction, origin story from a different place, and getting those people now to be celebrated. And we're seeing two essentially communities of color, cultures of color fighting each other. I imagine they're eventually going to come together when they realize who has pitted them against each other. And be very curious to see who that is, and coming together and going after that. That's maybe so much fun to see. So
if that happens.
Okay, well, I know I'm offering my opinion. You had your chance to speak. It's my thoughts of what I think is going to happen here. And the speculation comes, let's move to this section of the trailer. Because I don't want to see a movie where two communities of color just fight each other. Fuck that nonsense in 2022. So I hope there is a person who has tricked them to battle each other. A lot of people speculate it might be Dr. Doom. We shall see. But who do you guys think is in the Black Panther outfit in that moment that we see in the trailer, which everybody is talking about? Is it Shuri? Is it Okoye? Is it Nakia? I've seen Ramunda mentioned as a possibility. I've seen Killmonger possibly coming back. And my personal belief is that it is Submariner in that outfit just for a certain mission to trick certain people into believing Black Panther is back, and then he hands the mantle back to whoever it's going to be. So I'm throwing these out there. Who do you guys think is in the Black Panther outfit?
No idea. No, like literally no idea. I mean, looking at the golder, the gold claws, that is what Killmonger wore. I don't think Killmonger's coming back from the dead and putting on the suit. I don't know, man. I mean, I think that's going to be the allure of this movie, is finding out who ultimately takes up the mantle of the defender of Wakanda. No idea.
Yeah, a lot of people speculate. I see in the trailer, in the chat here, Michael. A lot of people speculate it could be a flashback, could be from another time. I see my friend Jay Washington speculating that it could be Ramunda in the Black Panther outfit during the time where Shuri was blipped, T'Challa was blipped, and her husband had died. So her saying, "I gave everything." This is her mania in that moment when you see her speaking. It could be her trying to reclaim the Wakandan strength, or showing strength, and reclaim their power in the world. So who do you think could be in that outfit? Do you think it's from a current time or a flashback?
I mean, I do think that the movie is going to be about finding a new Black Panther. So I think there is the promise there that somebody will become the Black Panther. But whether that is going to be Shuri like it is in the comics, I think Nakia as a character and the way they built her out, there's a really strong case to be made there. Sure. We know very little bit about the role that of Anika that's going to be in the movie that Michaela Cole's going to play. So I think that they're, maybe they're just introducing Anika because she's a love interest to Io in the comics, and we're going to get, sort of an actual queer love story in there. But maybe they're going to take something, like there's a moment where Anika looks like she's fighting against the other Dora Milaje in the trailer. Yeah. So, maybe we get someone brand new to the entire Black Panther mythos, and they're going to do a story like that. Could it be Killmonger? I was saying on Twitter this morning, it's not Killmonger, y'all. Maybe it is, but I think Killmonger is a fascinating character. I think there's a big redemption story there, but with so much seemingly going on in this trailer, between the Atlanteans, whoever the special ops forces are that's coming in, the Wakandans, figuring out how you're going to resurrect Killmonger and not resurrecting him and putting him in a Black Panther costume. Sure, that's something you could do, but to really give Killmonger the sort of redemption arc that you need and introduce all this other stuff, I just think you might be doing a disservice to the characters. So my bet that it's Killmonger is very low.
Yeah.
And my bet that it's going to be one of these fierce Wakandan ladies is on the higher spectrum.
Yeah.
But I do think, kind of to John's point about two communities of color and his guesses as to what the movie is about, I think what is really interesting about this movie is that the first Black Panther movie was so much about this idea of sort of Afrofuturism and what an African culture could have been like had it not been decimated by colonizers. And I think that tying the Atlanteans to the Mayan culture, also decimated, by colonizers and Cortez, and seeing how that they have developed underwater, how the Atlanteans have developed underwater in that similar place. I think this movie definitely is going to have a lot to say. And I think that there may very well be elements to somebody telling Namor something that gets him focused on Wakanda, but I also think it's equally as likely, look, Wakanda at the end of Black Panther, even before T'Challa's passing, and however they're going to explain that, Killmonger destroyed all of the purple flowers, that had the power of the Black Panther in them. So not only do they not have a Black Panther, they don't have a way to access the Black Panther. And now that the entire world knows about Wakanda and knows about vibranium, they're probably going to have pressure from all sides. So whether it is they need to go to Atlantis to get some of these things, or there's more vibranium in Atlantis, or everybody is attacking them for their vibranium, including Atlantis. I mean, I think that there's so many potential avenues that could bring these two cultures to be at odds with each other. And in the comics, Atlantis straight up destroys Wakanda, and Namor is kind of a dick. Now, how much of a dick is Namor going to be in the Marvel Universe? Don't know. He probably won't be quite as much of an asshole as he is in the comics, because he is for sure an asshole.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's a lot of different personalities at play here and a lot of issues. And you can have two very proud races of people have very valid reasons to bring them into conflict with each other. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah. Yeah. No, obviously in a perfect world, you could have that, no problem. But if it's the first time representation is happening, I'd hate to see it happening that way. Just like Bishke Ali said, I'm not doing a Muslim boy who is going to be a criminal. I'm not going to do that. I think by the same token, the first time Latinos are actually going to be represented and the culture going to be seen in full here, I don't want it to be seen as a villainous people who are trying to take over and destroy Wakanda either.
And I don't think it's going to. That's not what I'm saying. I think that, to my point, you can have two peoples fighting each other, two groups of communities fighting each other in a movie, and both of them can be wrong. And neither of them have to be villains. And that's what the movie's about. I think Ryan Coogler is not playing at here's the bad guys that we need to defeat and destroy. Oh, no. I think that by having these two very rich cultures, and just by looking at the trailer, it is very clear that they have taken the time to build out this Atlantean culture in a very specific way. I think that they're creating something a bit more interesting than just let's have some people fight each other.
Yeah, I agree. Because historically, that's been the thing. Communities of color being pitted against each other by a white majority. That's what I wonder if there's going to be elements of that here, seen in this movie. We shall see, or if they go another route. But yes, I agree with you, Michael. Ryan Coogler absolutely will deliver something a bit more nuanced and much more reflective and interesting for us to consider when we look at all of it, when we get a chance to see it. All right. Anything more we want to say about what do we think about the way Kevin Feige talked about phase 4, phase 5, phase 6, Shannon, let's go back to you since Mike and I have been talking for a bit. Talk to me about what you thought about how Feige presented this thing. Do you agree that it was what I'd mentioned earlier, that Phase 4 was just kind of, it's got bad branding on it, so they want to move on from it and hit on to Phase 5, Phase 6. Do you like the way he mapped everything out and the surprises with Daredevil being 18 episodes and the ending of Phase 6 with those 2 Avengers movies?
Yes. I mean, Marvel does a great Hall H panel. Even going back and like seeing the things, seeing what Phase 4 was and seeing films that I may not necessarily have loved. I still love looking up and knowing that we are 20 plus movies deep into a Marvel Cinematic Universe. That is just the coolest thing. I mean, them officially announcing that Captain America 4 was coming out with Anthony Mackie. Is it New World Order, I think?
Yes, New World Order.
Yeah, I mean, but I do think like everyone has been wondering when is the next Avengers movie going to be, and they answered the question. I mean, the fact that he said this is how Phase 6 ends with Avengers Kang Dynasty and Avengers Secret Wars. So he's magic. He's magic up there. And when they lay out that timeline and there's just these blank spots where titles are going to go, like you just never know what's going to happen. And the Daredevil one was definitely a surprise. And we knew Cap was coming, but I mean, knowing officially now it is dated now, and we have a date for Blade. Like, you know, Blade didn't have a date for the longest time, and now we know it's coming out November of next year. So it'll be interesting to see if all of these, because the last time they did this, you know, COVID happened.
Yeah,
all those slides were wrong. So
we hope we don't get another world epidemic.
I'm really hoping that they're able to stick to all these dates.
Yeah, for sure. Mikey, thoughts on the Phase 4, Phase 5, Phase 6 presentation here by Kevin Feige?
Yeah, I don't know that they ended Phase 4 early because of bad branding. I think that ending Phase 4 when they ended it was probably the plan, because there's been quite a few movies and TV shows in Phase 4 already. Like it's been pretty packed. But I think what they did do on purpose, because of kind of the reaction to Phase 4, is give us a Phase 6. I think that traditionally Marvel would have just kept feeding the beast and kind of giving us a shape of Phase 5 and maybe just said Fantastic Four kicks off Phase 6. I think the decision they made is because people, us included, have clearly been so confused about what's going on. And knowing that we're getting to a double Avengers again, the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, really contextualizes a lot of what we've been seeing. And knowing that, so like we know that Wakanda Forever ends Phase 4. We know that Quantumania begins Phase 5. We know that Thunderbolts ends Phase 5. And then we know it's Fantastic Four. And then we know it gets to Avengers. And like Shannon said, there are 1,000 gaps in there for TV shows and movies that they're going to fill in along the way. So I think that, like I said, I think at D23, we're going to hear more about mutants. Yeah. I would imagine we may hear some more about Young Avengers. I think we're going to hear, so I think they have some big surprises, but Shannon and Kalinowski and I were talking about this in the car. Knowing that Thunderbolts exists, I think they did that very specifically, is that now all the stuff that seemed all over the place in Phase 4 starts to have some threads and directions. Yeah. Like we know that Kang is sort of riding over everything. He's kicking off Phase 5 and his name is in one of the Avengers movies. So we know he's the big deal. Yeah. And we know that Julia Louis-Dreyfus putting together this team is going to end Phase 5 before we get into Fantastic Four and all stuff. So we're going to have this team of like what it looks like to be sort of like government run special ops Avengers is kind of like what it seems, just based on what we've seen of her so far with US Agent and Yelena. And then we know that we've got this mystery about the 10 rings, which are tied to Kamala's bracelets, like that somehow those two things are related and they're pinging something off. Is it the Beyonders? Is it someone bigger than the multiverse? Is this is this the people that started the multiverse in the first place? And I think that when we see whatever's going on with the Eternals and the Celestials, like all of a sudden getting into all this cosmic stuff, knowing that we're basically going to destroy the entire multiverse, my guess would be between two Avengers movies, to get to Secret Wars, where somebody, whether that be Kang or Doctor Doom, rebuilds the entire universe in their image. All of a sudden they're doing what they did before with we're going to get to an Avengers movie, we're going to get to the Infinity Gauntlet, they're doing it again. So now, instead of us sitting around speculating like, what the fuck is going on? It feels like there's 5 different things. I don't know. We know that Kang is going to rule, and then the multiverse is probably going to collapse, because that's pretty much what Secret Wars is about. So it gives a really strong sense of direction. And like I said, there's going to be some stinkers in there. There's been some stinkers in Phase 4, but I think there's also going to be some gems. And will it be as smooth a ride as we got in the Infinity Saga? Maybe, maybe not, but I think we tend to overlook some of the stinkers in the Infinity Saga too, because they really stuck the landing. So it's going to be interesting to see the journey.
Yeah, the Kang, I mean, are they going to repeat the beats from Infinity War and Endgame, where the Kang Dynasty ends on a down note? The Kang has taken control of everything, and then Secret Wars is where they reverse all that and fight back and reclaim everything and destroy, as you said, the multiverse and others. One timeline, we shall see for sure. But yeah, I mean, this Marvel panel was absolutely the gem of the entire weekend and worth it from top to bottom. They are so far and above and away ahead of every other brand or franchise, whatever you want to say, or company. They're just so far and away ahead of everybody else. And it's incredible to watch them not sitting back on their laurels, but still pushing it out there, trying to create new things, trying to explore new worlds, trying to try new ways and bring new characters into this. Instead of having Captain America 7, they're just kind of exploring new characters, bringing them into the fold, and having them branch out and appear in animated stuff, and appear in these TV shows, appear in these movies, and in any other media that they got out there that I think is incredible. So I came away from this feeling very, very excited for what we're going to be getting in Phase 5 and Phase 6. And as Michael said, yeah, there are bound to be some clunkers, but overall, I like the direction we're going in. And that Wakanda Forever trailer, just like that Black Panther film did, it's going to change everything in the MCU and change people's feelings about the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well, I think, too. Let's get into some of these Streamlabs Super Chats before we get out of here. How much time do you gentlemen have? I know we're close to the second hour mark.
Keep going and we'll see.
Okay. Let's get it going here. Let's see. JMB. Oh, JMB said penance for impugning Shannon earlier, but to be fair, hobbits are awesome. Rocha, wait, did I apologize then? But never mind. All right, Carol said, I'm with Shannon regarding Sandman. I would rather have had James McAvoy as Morpheus on the show. Question for Vogel, did you like Good Omens more than American Gods? I loved Good Omens, but had a hard time getting into American Gods.
I liked the first season of American Gods, but then it kind of fell off for me. Again, like Neil Gaiman is really tough because he's tough to adapt. And I think that the more that you kind of take shortcuts to kind of like, oh, let's adapt this for a wider audience, it kind of gets the law of diminishing returns. So even though I thought American Gods started strong, I think I liked Good Omens more.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move on to the next one here, and that is from Jen Mattel. It says Cap 4 NWO, New World Order, I love that, is going to be interesting if Bucky ends up in Thunderbolts. What do you think will be the reason for his turn? I'm very interested about the on-the-ground Marvel stories. Love the Geek Buddies.
Well, it's actually interesting that you said that about his turn, because I think that, again, Shannon and Kalinowski and I were discussing this on the drive back. Thunderbolts, I think, is going to be one of those things where the name and what the team is in the MCU is different from the comics. So the Thunderbolts in the comics at either one time have either been a group of heroes pretending to be, a group of villains pretending to be heroes. You know, people have kind of compared it to, is it the Dark Avengers? Some people have said, oh, is this like Marvel's Suicide Squad? But when you think about the lineup, knowing that, like, given that just who Julia Louis-Dreyfus has talked to, we've got U.S. Agent, who thinks he's a good guy, even though he's kind of a dick. We've got Yelena Belova, who wants to be a hero, even though she was raised to be a killer. People have talked about Abomination, but given his appearance in She-Hulk, he might get pardoned. He might get off. He might be a free man. Other people have talked about whether it be Taskmaster, Ghost, Red Guardian, Bucky, Zemo, like all the people that you can think of. When you think about where they actually are in the Marvel Universe, they are in that gray area, but they're not necessarily villains. So I think that the key here is this team very well might be what Ross always wanted the Sokovia Accords to accomplish, which it might be a superhero team that does whatever the government tells them to do.
There you go.
And where that goes in the MCU, I don't know. Just a
reminder, we have 20 of these to get to. So just a reminder as you're going on this 5 minute. Go ahead. Wrap it up. What do you got? What else?
That's it.
Okay, Mike. Shannon, thoughts on this?
No, I don't think Bucky will be in the Thunderbolts. I think at the conclusion of Falcon and Winter Soldier, he has left doing missions for organizations he doesn't trust. I think he has left that in his rearview mirror.
Okay.
I think there's a possibility we're going to get some new characters that haven't been introduced yet, like maybe Frank Castle.
Oh, yeah, that's a possibility. He's been in the Thunderbolts for sure in the past. All right, Ryan L. says, as a huge War Machine fan, I've been stoked for Armor Wars and for Rhodey/Cheadle to finally get his time to shine, but no mention of it. I know the head writer still said it's coming, but still, what the F? Why did it seemingly get pushed back? I thought it got a date, didn't it?
No, it didn't get a date, but there's a whole lot of stuff in Phase 6 that they have not announced yet.
Right.
So
be patient, basically.
I kind of think that given what we saw in the Secret Invasion trailer, it looks like Rhodey might be getting into politics. And I think that you want to get, and I think whatever their plan for Armor Wars is, I would assume Riri Williams plays a big part of it. So I think that just Armor Wars this is just a guess, but they have to get through Secret Invasion and they got to get through Ironheart, and then Armor Wars is somewhere after that.
Fair enough. All right, Jughead1 says, love and respect to you both, Shannon and Michael. I hope you both don't feel John and I are leaving you out. LOL, this is what is great about the MCU. I guess it was a reference to something we spoke about earlier. I can't remember right now. Adam Hitchcock says, sent super chats at 3:30, so I hope they didn't get lost. If they did, hopefully you at least got the money. Love you guys. Best show on YouTube. I'll have to circle back, Hitchcock. Sorry, there's so many coming through sometimes. They do. So occasionally they get lost, not all the time. Hoth Security Guard says, with Phase 5 and part of Phase 6 announced, which movies/shows from Phase 4 will people end up liking with hindsight? I really like Eternals, but I think the Eternals and Celestials and the world they set up will pay off a lot in Phase 5 and Phase 6. That is possible. Gentlemen, what do you guys think?
I think Eternals is a great example that depending on the road, the path that the cinematic universe is about to go down, Eternals is something that people might look back and be like, oh, there was a lot of important stuff that if we hadn't had that movie, things could have gotten a little jumbled. Much like Thor: The Dark World in Endgame.
Michael, thoughts?
My thoughts are Thor: The Dark World and Eternals are not the same. But beyond that, I do think Eternals is a good example. I don't think hindsight will necessarily change my opinion of Multiverse of Madness, but I do think that I already liked Eternals, but I'm waiting for people to say exactly what Shannon did, which is, oh, we actually really did need that movie. That was good stuff in retrospect.
Adam, I don't see your super chats, brother. I'm looking at the full chat from the beginning to end. I don't see them, so maybe they got lost when you sent them through, so I apologize. So we probably didn't get the money, so you keep that money for yourself. Suck said, X-Men and Secret Wars, is Kate Bishop in John Wick 4?
X-Men and Secret Wars, possibly. Kate Bishop and John Wick 4? Don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Julian Ramos, the reason why the new Captain America movie is called New World Order is because Cap will team up with Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash. Okay, I'll see myself out now.
I'm into it.
I love it. I would love to see it. Adam Jimenez says, can you talk about my favorite panel was the Star Trek panel, the whole crew of the Enterprise D, and confirming Picard will sit in the chair again. Oh, my God. Yeah, I don't get people involved in this. But all right, yeah, go ahead. Gentlemen, any thoughts on that? Mike, I know you're a Next Generation fan, so any thoughts on that?
I would like them to redeem themselves after what I felt was a pretty schmaltzy end to Season 2 of Picard. But I'm very excited about Season 2 of Strange New Worlds.
Okay. All right. The Strange New Worlds panel was a lot of fun. Leah Thompson did a great job moderating that panel. It got me excited to see the show, which I will finally get a chance to see at some point here soon. Shannon, any thoughts on this? Picard, the whole crew coming back together. They put out a picture of them. They certainly look older, but still look regal and noble as the Next Generation cast. The idea of Picard sitting in the chair again. I saw it. I imagine for fans of that series, that was probably a very emotional moment. All right. Zarek the Storm and Gambit fan said, Spidey #1 last year, Eternals 9th highest gross of last year. Doctor Strange has grossed over $950 million and surpassed the original and will be top 10 movie of 2022. Love and Thunder is outpacing Ragnarok, and Ms. Marvel is the highest rated Rotten Tomatoes show. Not all bad news for Phase 4.
Yeah, look, that's what I said. Like, Phase 4 launched the Marvel Disney Plus shows, a lot of which we all liked. No Way Home, Shang-Chi, Black Widow, not like the strongest, but certainly has a lot of really good things about it. And, Wakanda Forever, looking strong. So definitely an uneven phase, but I think once it's all said and done, if you compare it to some of the other earlier phases, it might be pretty comparable.
be rolling there. J Master says, Rocha, the X-Men animated series is on Disney Plus. Oh, good to know. I guess I'll watch it. G Smith says, Wakanda will be a well-done blockbuster, but why pay tribute to Chadwick by killing the character he fought so hard through cancer to bring to life for kids and fans? We haven't seen T'Challa's stories. First black tier, number one hero. Sambo Cap isn't even close. Wow, G Smith, I do not agree with your sentiments there, especially using that term to describe Anthony Mackie's interpretation of Captain America. That's a strong term that I do not agree with, my man. So I will tell you that right now. But gentlemen, we should address his other point here. T'Challa, we had a previous super chat talking about how they wish they just recast T'Challa. So what are your thoughts on all this, that they seem to be moving forward without, at this point, recasting T'Challa and just recast, or just finding a new Black Panther for the franchise?
I think creatively, when they sat down to kind of figure out what the sequel was going to be, and then Chadwick Boseman, tragically passed away, that the world of Black Panther was big enough and important enough to continue that story.
Yeah.
But maybe putting in another actor, asking another actor to step into the very, very big shoes of Chadwick Boseman for that next chapter may have been a little too much. So it was sort of like, which path do we want to go down? Do we want to kind of abandon the world? Which, I mean, granted, other characters can pop up, or do we want to give another performer the unenviable task of having to follow up Chadwick Boseman's performance? I mean, again, if they're able to do it down the line organically, the way the story is going, that seems like it's probably going to be the best option, though I certainly understand the dissatisfaction with some fans who like the character's bigger than the actor. I get it.
Absolutely. Mike?
Yeah, look, I think that I completely understand the sentiment, and like I said, there's definitely probably opportunities down the road where Marvel could have a new T'Challa pop up in some way and tell the stories. But I think that when you look at Ryan Coogler's reaction in the panel and you look at the cast's reaction, having this movie about dealing with the loss of a character that they all lived through the loss of their friend, it's pretty powerful. And so even though I completely understand both sides of the sentiment, given that this is the choice they made, I really appreciate that they really leaned into it and made this story in its own way a tribute. Like, I think it's going to be really hard to watch this movie and watch all these characters mourning the loss of T'Challa and knowing that those tears are real tears.
Yeah.
So I think that given that this is the choice, I think they're really going and making the most out of it. But I completely understand the sentiment.
Yeah. It doesn't mean they can't create these same, how can I say this correctly? They can't create the same vibe of T'Challa or this hero and whatever with this new approach to it, and take some of those elements of T'Challa's story and put them in the story for the person that is going to be taking over the Black Panther mantle in the future, for sure. So it's not, it's not done. Princess Geek says, okay, you told us about the panels. Now talk about the EW party. Oh boy. Boy, are there stories to be told for that EW party. Let me tell you. Michael, anything you want to say first?
I will say that John and Shannon and Kalinowski were very, very adorable at the EW party. They were having a very, very good time. It was a lot of fun. The EW party is always like a great way to end Comic-Con. It's always a blast. This one was particularly fun. It's always the perfect mix of like running into people that you haven't seen in a long time, other people in the industry that you just haven't seen in a minute, particularly this year, and of course seeing your favorites. I mean, I think my highlight was taking a picture with the cast of For All Mankind and sending it to my brother to make him jealous, because we both are obsessed with that show. So we had a blast. I will say that some of us are more seasoned partiers than others, and I will leave it at that.
Yeah, I will say I had a good time, but my anxiety level was off the charts because I just don't deal well with being in confined spaces with people I don't know that well. And plus the pressure for me of being around people who are famous, I don't even know how to begin a conversation when it's just not a natural thing that occurs. So I get caught up in my own head about that. That being said, though, I had wonderful conversations with our crew that were there. Got to meet Chantel Van Santen's husband and had a nice conversation with him about manly things and how men do manly things, which I thought was a lot of fun. Ran into some friends like Coy and Danny Fernandez was there as well. Got to see her and got to see a number of people there. That was fun to do. And then eventually went home. When I hit my limit, went home. And I was going home with Kalinowski and another friend of mine, but that friend decided to change his mind halfway through, and we don't know what happened at that point. So yeah, a fun time overall. Shannon, how was your time there at the EW party?
It was great.
Yeah,
it was great. I ran into some folks that I hadn't seen in a while. Yeah. I met a very nice publicist from Fox Animation. We chatted for a little while. Yeah. It seemed like the evening was kind of wrapping up. So I was like, yeah, we'll leave. And so I left with my friends, John Rocha and Mike Kalinowski. And then Mike Kalinowski needed to go on a little detour to get himself some Diet Coke. Yeah. It took 2 stops to find it, but after the I got that sort of that extra shot of energy from walking, I'm like, I think I'm gonna go back. So I went back to the party and continued to have fun.
They are all very adorable at a party. Meanwhile, yeah. I closed the party down.
Yeah, you did. You and Quebec closed the party down for sure. You guys are pros at it, no doubt. Wait, I didn't leave someone behind. He left on his own accord. We were heading back to the hotel. That person broke off and ran off and did his own thing. So I did not leave anyone behind.
I will say Kalinowski was like, all right, if you and John hadn't come with me to get Diet Coke, would you have left John again and gone back to the party? I'm like, no, because I've been dragged so much for this leaving behind that I did, that I was not the only one. I would not have done that. I
feel he would have walked me to the hotel and then he would have gone back to the party. That's what I think.
That is possible.
Yeah, that I put that in the mix.
That's possible.
The Nerd Network says, I dislike the down talk about Phase 4. Some of my lowest ranked movies in the MCU are Thor 2, Hulk, and Iron Man 3, all Phase 1. Phase 4 is just Phase 1 of the multiverse saga. Now I just got to get healthier and hit the gym to make it to 2025. LOL.
We all do. And Iron Man 3 are in Phase 2. They are not in Phase 1.
Hulk and what? Iron Man 3 are in Phase 2? Wait.
But no. I think the
Thor 2 and Iron Man 3 are in Phase 2.
Regardless, the point still stands that even though we all love the MCU, we don't love every movie in the MCU.
It's true. And to everybody who's watching right now, please make sure you hit that like button. We had almost 600 of you watching us at one point. We're around 525 now, so please hit that like button if you haven't done so. We would love to do that. And shout out to our friend from Carbon Health, Dom Gazzella, who weren't able to see, although we tried to find time to see Dom, but unfortunately, Comic-Con can be crazy. We'll definitely have to set up a dinner and drinks with Dom at some point down the road here in LA for sure. No, you're not wrong. That was absolutely my real life Hayward Island. Yeah, no lie about that. Let's see. Jay Master says, IGN discussing film Variety and other major outlets reported already that MODOK was seen in the Ant-Man footage. All right, there you go.
So in the Ant-Man footage, in the quantum realm, they see MODOK.
Well said, Michael. Well said. Okay, let's see. Keep going here. Itzante says, I think we will get an end credit with Doctor Doom being the one. I think we will get the end credit with Doctor Doom being the one who instigated the battle between Wakanda and Atlantis in the comics. Doctor Doom wanted Wakanda's vibranium. This would be a distraction. Gentlemen?
I think that since Wakanda Forever is ending Phase 4 and we're not getting a Fantastic Four movie until the beginning of Phase 6, I would not put my money on that.
Okay. Excellent point. Shannon?
I would say it's possible because there are characters that can disappear, especially because we have so many right now. There are characters that can pop up and disappear years at a time now. And what Phase 6 starts in, is it 2024?
Yeah.
So that's only 2 years. So if you have someone pop up in a movie at the end of 2022 and show up a year and a half, 2 years later, there's nothing to say that they might not pop up again at some point.
Yeah. Again, we'll see.
Yeah, Fantastic Four is so inexorably tied to Doctor Doom. It would be odd to have Doctor Doom go first, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. But I don't know for sure. Carol says, I lost my mind when they announced Secret Wars, and I look forward to possible X-Men announcements at D23. Normally, I love new directors getting shots, but I hope the whole writing, directing team from Infinity War and Endgame come back to do the Avengers movies. Shannon, want to address this? You clued us into what Feige actually said about this.
Yeah, Feige said at this point, I'm sure everybody knows this, but Feige said at this point that they were not going to be doing the Avengers movies, Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, which...
Well, they said the Russo brothers weren't. They didn't say anything about the writers, did they?
Yes, the Russo brothers were not going to be doing those movies. That both parties are still big fans of each other. They want to work with them again in the future, but it's not going to be in the Avengers movies. Also, Andrew Garfield said for a year he wasn't in Spider-Man No Way Home. So,
I also would prefer the Russo brothers tackle this. They've already proven that they can tackle something on this scale, so we'll see. But, who would have thought the Russo brothers ever could have tackled that in the first place? So maybe there's other directors that they're looking at out there. We'll see.
Yeah, good point. Maybe the Daniels, after what they did with Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's a possibility, right? Those directors doing that. J&B says, single series / movie are you looking forward to the most? This is a follow-up to what he'd asked before, so we should answer it now. Single series movie you were looking forward to the most?
Based off of the footage, Secret Invasion, and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Oof. Mike, do you have an answer?
Guardians Volume 3.
Okay. I would say Wakanda Forever, then Secret Invasion, and then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Those are my top 3 right now that I'm looking forward to the most. Haskell says, watch X-Men 97 watch one X-Men 97 episode a week leading into its return. How many episodes are there? Is it that long? Is it like 20 episodes or something?
Bunch of episodes. It went on for a little while.
Yeah.
Okay.
That animation style is a lot to get through, but
that's what I'm worried about. Yeah.
But I'm definitely going to go back and rewatch them. I mean, the nostalgia factor alone. I mean, that was like one of the animated shows of my childhood, so I will absolutely be going back to it.
All right, fair enough. Our last one here is from the Nerd Network again, saying, calling it now, most properties we've seen in Phase 4 aren't MCU/616 that we've been watching for 14 years. Specifically, Eternal, Shang-Chi, Moon Knight, What If, obviously, LOL, could easily be other universes. Thoughts? # Hayward Island. Oh, there you go. What do you guys think?
The multiverse is a weird thing. I feel like if they were able to pull that off, if they were able to pull the rug out from under us and be like, surprise, this all was happening in another universe, and not completely confuse 70% of their movie-going audience, I would be very surprised. But if they could pull that off, it would be a hell of a hat trick. I think that's a lot to pull off, though.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
I mean, so Shang-Chi certainly seems like it took place in our universe, but at the end, Bruce Banner is Mark Ruffalo. He's not Professor Hulked out, and they have not established that he goes back and forth yet. And in She-Hulk, I think we've only seen him as Professor Hulk. So, yeah. I mean, I don't think this is going to happen, but we'll see.
Yeah, fair enough. Carol T correcting us, saying it's not called X-Men 97. It came out in 92. Yeah, fair enough. X-Men, the animated series. I apologize. I know the one coming out is called X-Men 97. Jay Master says X-Men, the animated series is 5 seasons. 5 seasons!
And they're probably 26 episodes.
Oh!
But as everyone's been saying in the chat, Disney did find, and my future husband Bo did say this in the X-Men animated panel, they finally put them in chronological order. When X-Men Animated came out, that shit got aired all over the place, and it got very confusing. But now if you go watch it on Disney Plus, you actually can watch it in the order that it was supposed to be told. Like, this is what the story is. And they did confirm that they're going to be picking up some of those threads. So, despite the fact that there's some very wonky animated moments, probably worth a rewatch.
Fair enough. There you go. All right. Well, there you go. That's our coverage. We went on for 2 hours, ladies and gentlemen, and we still only scratched a majority of the surface, but not the full surface, because there were so many panels, so many presentations. There's so many things that happened at Comic-Con. We just covered as much of the big stuff that we witnessed as possible, but certainly there's a lot of other stuff that you all probably heard about or read about that you have interest in that we unfortunately were not able to cover. But I hope you feel that we did an excellent job covering all of this and giving you our thoughts on it all. Thank you all so much for joining us for the lively chat, for the Streamlabs, for the Super Chats. We appreciate it madly. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at geek_buddies, on Instagram at _geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you'd like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is at MKToon. He's a season partier, folks. If you'd like to follow Mr. Rocha, it's at The Rocha Says. He gets to bed at a reasonable hour.
Damn right I do. I got a lot to do. Shannon, because I'm going to ask this of Michael as well. Final thoughts on Comic-Con overall. I know we gave our overall thoughts, but now I have to talk everything out here. What is your feeling walking away from this Comic-Con?
This was the perfect reintroduction to Comic-Con after a considerable absence. This was one of my favorite weekends of 2022.
Fair enough. Michael, thoughts overall on the final thoughts on Comic-Con, and what else do we have to tell?
It was a blast. Saturday was amazing. Pulling off the Ocean's 11 geek heist of getting everybody in to the MCU panel was pretty fantastic, and I had an absolute blast. And it got me back excited about the MCU again. So thank you, Kevin Feige, for my multiverse saga hat that I got.
Woo!
And if you like Multiverse Saga hats, earplugs, Diet Cokes, and leaving men behind in the Gaslamp District, Geek Buddies is what you should be listening to. So here's what you guys can do to help us get even more followers and bring more buddies into the fold. Hit the like button below. You guys are amazing in the chat. Leave your comments below in the YouTube page so that everybody can see all the amazing thoughts that you guys had. What did you like? What are you excited about? What are you worried about? If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere podcasts are available, please go leave us some stars and leave us some comments so we go up in the rankings so more people find us on our entertainment podcasts. And as always, the best thing that you guys can do is retweet this video. Yep, retweet it. Retweet this video, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, and tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
There you go. And I can't encourage you all enough to do so. Listen, this is a great effing show. We need to be at higher numbers, and we need your help to do so. I see 5 or 6 of you occasionally tweeted. We had 680 people watching us tonight. You all need to be retweeting these episodes, retweeting everything we do to get people on board. Tell your friends, tell your family members to take a chance on the Geek Buddies. They will absolutely come aboard the train. So let's get our numbers up, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get more people involved in this. Do your part as well. We appreciate it madly for sure. All right, well, that's it from us. Y'all take care of yourselves. Be well. I'll say I had a great time. It was a great reintroduction for a last hurrah of the 4 of us staying in a room together. It was awesome. And I look forward to future Comic-Cons, but I'm only going down for a day or 2 because this one took a lot out of me for sure, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. And it was a brand new experience for sure. So, all right, y'all, take care of yourselves. Be well. And, shout out to Carbon Health as well. Go to carbonhealth.com if you've got any healthcare questions, concerns, or needs you need addressed. They believe in creating personal healthcare plans for you and engaging in communities that are supportive and fun that talk about commonality in geek culture like ours. So go and give them some love. Download that app from Carbon Health there. And if you need any questions, if you want to go to a clinic or virtual care, head on over to carbonhealth.com and see if you can visit one today or in the future, or get your questions answered there virtually for any healthcare concerns you have. All right, take care of yourselves. Be well, and we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode of the
Geek
Buddy!